Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm sorry, it's another one of those where we're going to start laughing already because I kid you not, Labour are literally getting completely and utterly baked, killed, smashed,
trounced.
bummed, trounced. They are getting absolutely stooped. In the words of friends of mine who used to be in New York. Emma Wolf is here for a Friday. And it's a special Friday, Emma.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming in. She wasn't able to come in on Monday, so we flipped her around a bit. But how fortuitous that you're here on Friday to witness the demise of Kier Starmer and his bunch of complete and utter charlatans, because this is brilliant.
Well, I'm glad that we're matching. First question,
yes.
Did you stay up for it all night?
No, absolutely not.
Because a friend of mine was having an election party, a local elections party, with all the snacks in Cornwall, which I thought was a brilliant... It's a good night.
It's a good night. No, normally speaking...
But the coverage was quite rubbish.
Was it? See, normally speaking, a local election isn't worth staying up for because there's not really enough happening. But there were quite a few seats that were declared. So when I woke up this morning to hear various people on the BBC, because I put on the BBC this morning, so I can't listen to Times Radio that early in the morning because it's just awful. But the BBC have just discovered, apparently, that there's a party called Reform...
Who are doing quite well.
Who have done really well. And they've started saying... Nick Robinson was on 5 Live saying, do you think it's time we started to discuss the possibility of Nigel Farage being the next Prime Minister? And it's like, really? Do you think?
Admitting through gritted
you complete moron.
Through gritted teeth that Reform are doing quite well.
Yeah.
With the caveat that... all counts haven't been completed yet.
Right. And it's almost as though they haven't been listening to my show for the last 2 years, where I've been saying to people, this is the end of the two-party system. It's finished.
It really is. And also,
this is the end of the two-party system.
It really is. And when you put in Scotland and Wales and what's happening there, we are seeing a complete and utter fragmentation. I'm more worried about the fact that this is your coffee, so that's yours.
Is that mine? And
there is a very, very green banana, and I really hope you're not planning to eat that over there.
No, listen, I had this problem yesterday.
Ridiculous.
I bought a bunch of bananas, right, the other day, and they were all green, and I thought, that's good, because if you buy them when they're yellow, then they go off by the end of the week, so I can have one every day.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they haven't really become any less green. However, we cut one open yesterday, and it was perfect. It was really lovely.
OK, but that is
actually, if you feel it...
That looks horribly hard, and a really hard green banana.
No, because you can feel that it's actually ready to eat.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Is this a new segment for a chat?
It could be, yeah, like Emma sees whether the banana's soft enough to eat.
Well, I am pretty much fruitarian. Have you had those
fruitarian?
pears?
What do you mean? You eat fruit?
Well, I'm vegetarian, but fruitarian.
I don't know what fruitarian means.
Some people just exist on air and fruit.
OK.
Anyway, have you ever had those pears that literally never ripen? You buy a...
Yeah, they're really hard.
They just don't get ripe.
Don't like
and you
those.
cut them open and they are rock concrete hard.
And they haven't got any juice in them either.
No juice.
No.
Really horrible.
No, I'm not keen on that.
What about soft grapes?
Soft grapes, yes.
No,
yes. No, I don't mind soft grapes.
No.
Yeah.
Sort of falling apart grapes.
Sick over there.
Ridiculous.
But this banana thing is bothering me now because why is it not turning yellow? Right? What's going on with that?
Can Charlotte get a banana expert on?
Fruit chat. Yeah, Charlotte, time for a banana expert. preferably one who's not left wing, because when they find out who I am, they won't come on. Like who was it? It was the ladybird expert, who agreed to come on, right, and then cancelled when she found out who I was.
Absolutely kidding me.
And all I wanted to do was talk about why ladybirds are infesting everyone's houses.
Why are ladybirds infesting, and why are there so many weird yellow ladybirds around at the moment, the yellow and black ones? I
think it's some kind of takeover of something, a migrant ladybird thing going on.
Oh, they've brought them over?
Yeah, because you can now get ladybirds who are black with white spots.
You are such an extremist.
I am. White with black spots I've seen. I've seen red. I've seen black with red spots. I mean, they're all different now.
Mike?
Yeah. What's this? Felix Plus. Stop it. This is not some kind of Benny Hill show, you know.
Are we talking about plums already?
Plums, Or
juicy mangoes?
Yeah, no, we're not going there. We're definitely not going there. Juicy melons, sorry. Somebody actually sent what was the...
This is what happens on a Friday, right, I'm out.
This is why you're not here on a Friday. Normally, Marilyn was in yesterday after the live show. We managed to keep her sober for most of the night, right? But
Mike,
have you got that clip?
I haven't got the clip, but I've got the image.
Somebody sent in a.
I did see a few minutes of the show, the start of yesterday's show, and I had to wonder whether you were all still a bit tipsy from the night before,
well,
from the show
tipsy,
before.
But I literally got home at 2. I'd get myself to bed at 2 a.m. So I had like 3 hours sleep.
Didn't.
I know you don't care because that's what you do. So there you go. There's some great press for an older lady. Was the comment from someone, and she was quite insulted.
Oh, really?
I thought she'd be happy with that.
I thought the live chat's it's an added bonus. It's a bit like this sort of OnlyFans wing of the Mike Graham show.
It's true, absolutely right. Also, getting a compliment as an older woman, I would have thought is something that you would want.
Woman.
Yeah. Anyway, should we get back to the politics because it's quite a big story this morning. Other stories around include on the front page of the Times, Prime Minister urged by Miliband to set timeline for leaving, which means that as again the BBC have discovered, it might be time for Kier Starmer to move on. How is that going to all happen? He's not going to leave soon. He's going to hang around for a long time. And I was listening to Charlie Faulkner, my Lord Faulkner, very much part of the New Labour project back in the Blair days, saying, this is not the time to change the leader. This is the time for reflection, and we must change, and we must understand what the people want. And it's like, have you not been listening to anybody for the last 2 years?
And also,
complete moron.
And what is the point of doing any of these kind of polls of popularity or whatever when he's literally the lowest ever popularity of any sort of serving prime minister, I think, in history? And also, can I ask you this question? Because I don't know if you've seen the front page of the Telegraph. Yeah. But the picture probably is inside the papers as well. But on the front page of the Telegraph today, a picture of him going, that picture there. Yes. Going to vote with Mrs. Starmer holding hands. So with Lady Victoria. What this photo reminded me of, by the way, I like her style. I don't mind her. I do like her style, but we don't get any sense of her. We don't even know whether she's still living there. I don't think she likes it. What that photo reminded me of was when I'm grabbing my 5-year-old and dragging him down the street because he won't do X, Y, Z. Yes. Can you see the visor grip that he's got? I mean, that photo was all over the place. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning. They were going, they always want, the Prime Minister always wants to be the first to vote. Yeah, he doesn't look happy, does he? And he's grabbing her and pulling her along. A recalcitrant child. Yes. It's that kind of hand grip. It's not a relaxed. There's something very weird about him, isn't there? Very weird. And also, but about their relationship, because you never see them out and about. The way you would see David Cameron and Samantha. Yeah. You did see them out and about. And you could tell that they sort of... at the pub with the kids, leaving the kids, wherever. But you could see, and they were on holiday. Have you ever seen Starmer and Victoria on the beach? No. Because the thing about Cameron and Samantha, whether you like them or not, they looked like they were a normal couple. Yes. They had a sort of relationship in the same way even that Theresa May and her husband did. You did see them going to church, and Rishi Sunak and his incredibly rich wife. You can see that they had something going on. And Boris and Carrie, they are a real family. You can see it. With Kier Starmer and Lady Victoria, there is something very odd there. There is. I mean, no wonder she's hiding behind sunglasses every time you see her. Yeah, exactly right. And we haven't seen her for a long time. I mean, yesterday, that picture was the first time we've seen her probably in about a month or more. Right, and a lot of stories, as you say, that she's moved out of Downing Street. She's not there anymore. For the poll, for voting day. Yeah, right. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming you voted. When we came out of I took my 5-year-old before school. That was great fun. He may or may not have helped me. He may have invalidated my papers because I'm in Hackney. Did you not do a bit of family voting? Because that's what they do in Hackney, isn't it? Well, I don't want to be invalidated. It's me and my 58 wives. We're all going to write down. Or my father told me to vote this way. Yeah. So anyway, we did a bit of tactical voting, but obviously I'm in Hackney and it's going Labour. Like they have the craziest mayor you've ever seen, Zoe Garbutt. This is the Star Trek woman. You saw that, right? Yeah. The Star Trek, Lieutenant Uhuru woman. So we came out of the polling station and the Green Party candidate, they were all out there. Have you voted? And I said, yes. Can I have your number? So he ticked me off. And then he said, and can I ask how you voted? And I said, no, you cannot, you cheeky so-and-so. I said, if I tell you, I have to kill you. And he got really like, oh. But I mean, I thought, why are you asking me how I voted? I know they do that. I know it's sort of their version of an exit poll. Because they're trying to collect the data, right? Well, but the Greens in Hackney are trying to get out all the vote. And everybody's green there. Right. Everybody's green with pink hair. So. Yeah, it's very weird, isn't it? Latest on the numbers this morning, for those of you just waking up, it is a big day because it is big local election day, and also we'll hear about Scotland and Wales later on today, which we don't know yet. But here's the numbers on the doors, as it were. This is from Politics UK. Reform plus 333 seats. Okay. Labour minus 246 seats. Okay. Lib Dems plus 35 seats with 237. Conservatives minus 126 seats. The Greens up 25 seats to 48, which is a small number at the moment. And then what's RS? What's RS? Don't know. And then Independence, they're saying 20 down by 16. What's RS? Why is it taking so long for the counts? It's odd, isn't it? It is really odd. Well, one of the things that really bothers me, actually, about the way that council elections are done is that quite a lot of the councils will say, collect all of the ballots, put them all into a room at 10 o'clock at night when the polls close, and then go, we'll come back in the morning. Yeah. No,
Start counting them now. This is what you're paid to do.
Absolutely.
Right? But a lot of them don't, and a lot of them won't start counting until 9 o'clock this morning.
It's really, really strange. It seems so slow.
Yeah, and we won't have the full picture until probably sometime tomorrow afternoon, which is very frustrating for people like us, because we're going, what's going on? We need to know. But there are enough indications, I would say, to say that Reform have obviously had an incredibly good night.
Yeah.
Nigel Farage said it last weekend that unless he's very deluded, they're going to do terribly well. It looks like they have done terribly well.
Yeah.
The one we're looking for, funnily enough, is Great Yarmouth, because obviously they're being challenged there by Rupert Lowe, who, for some bizarre reason, has not stood his candidates as Restore Britain, but has stood his candidates as Great Yarmouth First. So he's renamed the party, right? So what people are saying.
Great Yarmouth,
so what people are saying, and that's the only place he's standing candidates, right? So even if, say, for example, he does well there, it won't be a shot in the arm for Restore Britain, because people are not voting for Restore Britain, they're voting for this Great Yarmouth party.
I wonder if RS is Restore.
Mike, I've got some,
it could be.
I've got some live. There we go.
What have you got?
There you go.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, look at this.
That's what we actually need.
Wow. See, we talked about this earlier, and we weren't sure we'd have
professional.
We weren't sure we'd have the wherewithal to be able to do it. But yeah, there we go. 353 seats for Reform, 245 for Labour, but they're already down. They've already lost 248, 237 for the Lib Dems, 217 for the Conservatives. The Conservatives, I'm told, by the way, are having a worse night than Labour.
And they're actually I heard they'd hung on to some crucial seats.
Well, they've won back Wandsworth in London, which is unusual.
And they're also fighting hard for Westminster.
They won Westminster.
Have they won Westminster?
Won Westminster?
Breaking news. Yeah. This is just like working for the big channels. Well, I mean, this is brilliant, isn't it? And you only need to be here, one place. Richard Tice is going to be here with us shortly to tell us how he thinks they're doing. But it looks as though Reform have literally fulfilled all of their expectations. And it's good night, Vienna, for the Labour Party and Kier Starmer.
It's all about expectation management, isn't it? Because we've been talking about this bloodbath that's going to happen for Labour for so long that I think they're going to claim if it's sort of under 1,800 losses, they're okay. They didn't have a bad night, or they'll just say,
they can't spin this. They cannot spin this. This is the worst I've seen. And I was saying earlier, Charlie Faulkner was on the BBC, basically talking about lessons being learned and people listening and, not the time to change the leader and all of that nonsense that they go through. Yeah. They have been, the word begins with F, I'm not going to say it because I know Pooch doesn't like it. But, that's what's happened to them. They've been done. Like a kipper. Yeah, kippered, trussed up. They've been just completely and utterly filleted because everybody hates them, because everything they're doing is wrong. All of the policies they've got are completely wrong. Every single person that represents them is an idiot.
But can I just tell you what Starmer will say? He will say that there's challenges, that we're facing challenges due to the war in Iran. That all over the country, he'll make it all local. All over the country, councils are, in a cost of living.
And blah, blah, blah. It'll just be
all really like word salad and nothing.
Normally, because normally what you would say is, we've listened to the electorate and we will learn lessons and we will reach out and talk to people and no, because he's too arrogant to say that. I don't think he will say that. I think he'll talk about how difficult it is to rescue the country after 14 years of Tory.
Of course, he'll go back to the Tories. 14 years of Tories.
He'll blame them,
and then he'll say something about how we need to reset with Europe, so he can give another £1 billion to Europe. Yeah. I mean, the other day he was claiming that it was all about Brexit and that actually what we need. This is exactly why we need closer alignment with the EU. Yeah. As if the referendum never happened.
One of the things that's interesting today this morning is John McDonnell, who actually I have a bit of time for, even though he's completely
but he's an intelligent man.
Yeah, he's at the opposite end of the political spectrum from me. He's a communist more or less. But I used to interview him quite a lot before the last election. And we got on reasonably well. And he's been saying this morning that this is a really, really big problem for Labour because they're losing. This could be the beginning of the end of the party. Yeah. That they've basically lost in their heartlands. There simply aren't any more Labour heartlands. In the north of England, they've gone. They lost Scotland. They're probably going to lose Wales. Yeah. And there's this, and even parts of Birmingham and Manchester, which would normally be traditionally Labour, have gone.
You're absolutely right. This is kind of seismic, isn't it? This is existential for the Labour Party and for the kind of political landscape. Yeah. The whole I know it's a cliche about redrawing of the map and the two traditional, the kind of two-party structure. Yeah. But this is exactly what we're seeing at a local level. Yeah. And how this plays through to 2029 or hopefully sooner is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. And also it's not just about a local election now because it's more about people voting because they hate Kier Starmer, because they hate the Labour government, that they're taking that vote and moving it away from Labour altogether.
I think there's more than that. I think that the Green Party vote is like very, very identity. It's very much about who you are.
Right.
Then there's the whole kind of Muslim vote, which is also, you know, all about who you are and exactly. It's not just a protest vote against. I think it is on the right.
Yes.
It's absolutely a protest vote against Kier Starmer.
Yeah.
But I think on the left, you're also getting this really odd Zach Palansky cultism Green Party thing happening.
Right.
And they're a real force.
Yeah. Oh, they really are. And despite the fact that we saw just in the last few days Palansky's sort of popularity rating falling off a cliff because of what he said about what happened in Golders Green and how he sort of appeared to be defending the bloke who's been charged with terrorism and attempted murder. They still obviously have... They've certainly captured the left of what was the Labour Party, and the Corbynistas have all gone to the Green Party, which is quite a sizable chunk of people, I suppose, right?
Yeah, and a big splintering, as you say, on that far left. Where do they go now?
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And John McDonnell's right about the future of the Labour Party.
Well, I've been saying this for months, that this is the beginning of the end of the Labour Party. In fact, Alison Pearson's been saying it as well from the Telegraph, and she's been tweeting, you know, just 2 more days to go until the beginning of the death of the Labour Party. And I think that's what we're seeing. Because what's the Labour Party for? If they don't represent any longer the working class of this country, because they more or less wiped it out, then who do they represent? Because what I was hearing again on the BBC this morning was that basically the only people they now represent are the sort of graduate class of sort of wokeists who now work in big companies in London, you know, like you and I have both worked in. But they're a very, very small number of people with very little influence on, you know, the rest of the country.
Exactly, and it's very different. The kind of landscape here in London is very, very different to around the country. But those traditional Labour heartlands are just going, aren't they? Completely gone.
Totally. Well, I mean, if you imagine the industrial kind of, you know, north, for example, you know, places where they used to build ships in Glasgow, in Newcastle, you know,
all their industries have been wiped out.
All those industries are gone. The coal industry gone. The steel industry, Sheffield gone. You know.
No wonder they feel shafted.
Yeah, exactly. And they've been replaced by nothing really at all. There's nothing in its place. The car industry in the Midlands gone. And I know we're talking, you know, decades ago, but it hasn't been replaced. And the Labour government have just moved further and further and further into this kind of territory of Volvo driving, you know, middle class, you know, tosspots.
Labour and the Conservatives have done this to themselves.
Yeah.
They've become so woke, they've become so kind of elitist and European, Eurocentric and everything. They've done it to themselves.
Right.
Why would you feel represented by them if you
we talked, I mean, you know, we did a live show this week, which we're sorry you couldn't make. Hopefully you'll make the next one.
Definitely.
And, you know, the people were all of one sort of mind. They weren't all the same. They didn't all believe in the same things. Some of them probably had some different views from the left and the right. But in the end, what they were very sure about was they hate this government. They hate the way politics has gone in this country for the best part of the last 20 years because we're not represented by these politicians
anymore. And we're sneered at. We're sneered at. You know, people who vote Brexit. People who like Trump. That kind of thing. They're sneering. And you know what happens when you do that? When you do that to working class people or any people, they go, oh, do you know what? There are other alternatives out there. There's someone like Nigel Farage, for example. And who
everybody who meets him loves, right?
Absolutely loves, and who they feel is talking to them and is talking about what they care about. So, and again, that sounds really kind of patronising. He's talking to them, but it's actually someone who connects with them.
Yes, absolutely.
And Kier Starmer has never, ever, ever connected with the electorate, ever.
No.
Even when he won a landslide victory, even that morning he was stiff and awkward, and he's never, ever, you know, had any kind of rapport with people. No wonder they don't want to vote for him.
No, I know. Richard Tice is going to be here in a second. I'm told he's actually here, Pooch. I don't know if you've seen that. You may have to reach out and see if you can let him in the door. But before we get Richard Tice on, Emma Wolf is here. We're still talking through a couple of other stories before we move on to Richard.
So you think the Conservatives have going to have a very bad night?
I think they're also going to have a terrible night, and it's going to be worse for them than
I
people
think, again, they're going through a kind of identity crisis. Who are they? Who are they? They're not Reform, they're not Labour. I mean, I really, really, you know, I've said this many times, Mike, I really admire Kemi Badenoch. I think she's whip smart.
She's a very smart woman.
So intelligent, so brave.
Yes.
Brilliant speaker. I'm sure you saw her during the week taking on somebody, telling them that actually she
the
would
heckler,
stand... people heckling her. But, you know, she was saying, no, actually, this is absolute nonsense. She really stands up to people. But I think she's got a problem with her party. Yeah, because the smart ones have...
Well, because also intelligent people, even Tory people, who I've been speaking to probably for about the last 2 or 3 years on, you know, back when I was on Talk, you know, they used to tell me even before, you know, the general election last time, will never vote Tory again because they betrayed us. And that's why basically Labour got in. Labour got in because the Tories were so unpopular, because people had had enough of 14 years of them promising loads and doing nothing, particularly on immigration, particularly on the economy, particularly on, you know, the whole welfare problem, because they created all that. And that's why I think Reform are literally, you know, reaping the rewards now, because they can say, well, you know, the high taxes that we have in this country were started by the Tories. The immigration problem was started by the Tories, and so was the welfare problem, because more people are now on welfare than ever, right?
Yeah, of course, but I also think that Kemi is talking about change. He's talking about, you know, changing things and actually going forward. So, I mean, it's
but nobody believes her, though, because they go, well, hang on, you were part of those governments that caused all of these problems. And so Reform, I think, for many people, are the answer, because they look at Reform and they go, these are people who have actually got something to say to me. They speak to me, and I understand what they're saying. As long as
they follow through and they don't keep diluting, you know, their key kind of pledges and promises.
Right. Well, Richard Tice can tell us whether or not he's going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, eh? Oh, is he down the line?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
The empty chair.
Oh, I thought he was coming in.
So did I.
Oh, well, that explains it. Well, we'll come to him in a second. Quick one, though, for you. Front page of the Telegraph and the Times.
Yes.
The Chinese have apparently been spying on us.
Well, what a surprise.
That,
what
right?
a surprise. All these civil servants who are working from home are having their probably hopeless Wi-Fi connections hacked into by the Chinese, who've got a super embassy about to be built underneath London.
That's a good idea, isn't it?
Right?
Fantastic.
Have you heard about what these civil servants are doing? Apparently, what do? They drive to a local car park in a petrol station or something, log into the office broadband or Wi-Fi, whatever they need to do to show that they're working.
Yeah.
Then bugger off and go home and put the laundry on and go for a potter.
I know.
So anyway, of course they're hacked.
And the guy who has apparently worked as a Home Office official at Heathrow, a bloke called Peter Y, 38 years of age, who's an immigration officer, was working for the Chinese government, including another guy called Bill Yuen, who is an office manager at the Hong Kong Economic Trade Office in London. Both of them found guilty of assisting a foreign intelligence service, an offence under the National Security Act.
I hate to tell you, but these guys are called Peter Y and Bill Yuen.
Yeah.
They're Chinese and they're working at the heart of... I mean, there might be a few red flags.
Giveaway.
Yeah.
So have we got Richard Tice?
Yeah, we got Richard.
We have. Let's go to Richard Tice right now, because we've been keeping him waiting, and I'm sure he's got quite a lot of busy things to do this morning. Mr. Tice, a very good morning to you.
Morning to everybody, all of your wonderful listeners and viewers. Mike, I am in the heart of Birmingham. I've been to various counts overnight in Tamworth and in Newcastle under Lyme, where we have just won full control from a standing start of the Council of Newcastle under Lyme, which, by the way, is within the county of Staffordshire, where we've been doing a great job running the county council for the last 11 months, and essentially voters have given us a ringing endorsement. But some of the successes across the country are truly, truly seismic, Mike. This is a political earthquake, the likes of which I'm not sure even people of our age have seen before.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give you an idea, in Hartlepool, 12 out of 12. Wigan, we've won something like 24 out of 25. These are all taken from Labour. In Angela Rayner's backyard in Thameside, we've won 18 out of 19. In northeast Lincolnshire, Grimsby area, we've taken 14 out of 15. And on the list goes. But also, just going back to Newcastle under Lyme, we won that from the Conservatives. Great results down in Havant, again, from the Conservatives. So we are hoovering up council seats with wonderful new councillors from both the two main parties. And this is it's a rejection of the establishment parties. It's a rejection of the smearing and sniping and libeling from the establishment press of Reform's leaders. We've all come under the most appalling abuse recently. And voters have said, we've had it. We're done with all this ridiculous abuse. We want people to run our councils and our country better. And as I say, it's an endorsement of the councils that we have been running.
Yeah.
Because essentially, by being given the opportunity to run more councils, voters are saying, well done, chaps. You've had a good first 10 months. You've got lots right. Where you've made mistakes, you'll learn from it. Here's another bunch of councils to run.
And doesn't it also show, Richard, that the establishment not just in terms of its political head, but its media head as well, has completely lost the plot. You know, you have been a victim of all sorts of smears that have been written in the Sunday Times and the Times about you for weeks on end, as has Nigel Farage and the whole business of Dulwich College and the Guardian and all of that, and now the £5 million gift that he was supposedly given to have his own security done. Nobody cares about it, right? I was listening to the BBC this morning, and I know you'll be shocked by this because I thought I can't listen. Times Radio's so
it's
awful
tough
now.
at 5 in the morning.
I have to
watch?
go to the BBC, right? Nick Robinson was talking as if he'd literally come out of an egg and discovered there's a party called Reform. And he was going, is it time to think that possibly Reform could be the next government? And I'm going, hello, have you not been watching what's been going on, you complete moron? You know, this has been happening behind your head as you've been standing there for literally the last 2 years. And people in this country are sick to death of the uni party, they're sick to death of Labour, they're sick to death of the BBC, they're sick to death of the mainstream media. And now you're seeing the results of what we've been saying for literally 2 years.
And the reality is that people have got poorer, both financially, but also culturally and socially, societally as a nation. And people are very angry. They've been completely gaslit that mass immigration was a good idea. They've been gaslit that net stupid zero would bring the bills down, when actually it's just made the bills soar and it's destroyed fantastic industries and skilled jobs and the likes. And huge numbers of union workers in those industrial sectors have voted for reform against the best wishes of their union leadership. Because they know that we're on the side of alarm clock Britain, working Britain. That's the reality, and that's why they're voting for us.
Yeah, and Richard, I don't think it's just that they haven't noticed about reform. I think that they're actually in denial. They're absolutely terrified. The establishment are terrified. I mean, they can see the numbers. They just think it's not going to happen. And
well, it's just happened. Of
course it has. It's happening in front of our eyes, and they can say what they like. But this stuff about Nigel and the donations and things, people don't actually care. It's not personal. You know,
I've knocked on so many doors. Here's the point: I've knocked on so many doors over the last few weeks, and people just want us to run things better, cut out the way, do your job properly, do the potholes, bring down the send backlog, just get better value for money. And it's going to be remarkable through today, have a very close eye on the West Midlands, whether or not we take full control of Coventry, whether we take control of Walsall and Solihull. But the big one is Birmingham City Council, where it's going to be very, very close between ourselves and the pro-Gaza independents, the anti-Semitic pro-Gaza Greens. I mean, all sorts is going to happen here.
It's absolutely terrifying that you're able to say the pro-Gaza, anti-Semitic, that we are in this state where we are talking about these people taking over British councils in our country.
I know. I mean,
and
Reform really is the only place.
Greens have taken over Hackney.
Yeah.
One of the candidates for Birmingham City Council is a convicted terrorist.
It's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. And how is that even allowable under any kind of electoral law? It just seems completely and utterly mad. But so what happens now? I mean, obviously, you're going to be looking towards Scotland. You're going to be looking towards Wales as well. It's pretty clear that you're going to do well in both of those places, perhaps not well enough to run either of those governments, but certainly to have a massive influence over them. Have we lost Richard?
I haven't. He's muted. There you go.
Is he back?
I think he's unmuted. He's muted himself.
Has he? Why has he muted himself? We'll try and get
protest.
Maybe
he's in protest.
We'll try and get Richard back. I mean, you can see that he's obviously very pleased. Reform, I think, are going to be saying we've done better than we thought.
In Hartlepool, all over Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
Just amazing, really,
it really is.
To see those gains and from a standing start.
Well, do you know what was funny? Yesterday, Kelvin Mackenzie was in and he said to me, how do you think they're going to do? Better or worse than they expected? Are we back with Richard?
I'm still here, yes.
Sorry, Richard, I couldn't hear you there for a second. Yeah, no, I was asking about Scotland.
That was the establishment interfering with.
Well, do you know they keep hacking? They keep trying to hack my show, but every time they do it, I get another 2,000 people watching.
Look, the good news actually is that turnout is up in many places quite considerably. And that's great for everybody. And that's because we heard it on the doors. People said, I don't normally vote in local elections, but actually I want to vote this time and I want to vote reform. And I think in Wales, we could do spectacularly well. For the first time in almost 30 years, Labour are going to be booted out of running Wales as the biggest party. So that's great. And it's going to be an extraordinary 24 hours ahead, and we might well beat Labour into push them back into third place in Scotland. So,
and it also looks. I guess finally, and I know you've got lots to do, and so have we. But finally, let me ask you about the Tories, because the Tories, it looks as if they're going to have an even worse night than Labour, possibly.
Not worse than Labour. I think that would be impossible. But they are going to have a very bad night. In Scotland, in Wales, elsewhere, some of the big counties, they're in serious trouble. They're essentially going to become a sort of retrenched southern political party. No presence really in the north of England, no presence to speak of in Wales or Scotland. And, that sort of, they've had their chance, they blew it, and voters are saying, we want reform to come and save this country.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, listen, it's going to be a fascinating 24 hours. I'm sure you're going to not have any sleep at all. But many congratulations, Richard, because it's been a long time coming. You and I have been talking about this stuff for quite a long time now. I don't even want to think about when I first met you and when we first talked about reform becoming a power in the Brexit Party and all that. But I think you guys have done a brilliant job. And I don't care whether people say, well, Mike Graham's obviously gone over to the other side. I haven't gone over to anything. I just recognise talent and ideas and revolution when I see it. And I think you guys have done a fantastic job over the last sort of 2 years. So well done.
You're very kind. Thank you very much. Lots to do from here.
I'll see you for a glass of champagne soon. Richard Tice, thank you very much indeed. I don't care. The great thing about being independent is that I can say whatever I like. Nobody's going to go, you seem to balance it up a bit. No, I'm not going to balance it up a bit because I'm really pleased because I hate the Labour government. I think the Tories have completely blown it. And let's give somebody else a chance.
I do think, let's give somebody else a chance. And also give people a voice. People, there were so many times over the past sort of 5-10 years when people said, well, there's nothing, there's no one I want to vote for. Now, for the first time, you actually see people fired up, voting in local elections, and feeling that Nigel Farage and his team are A, talking about what they care about, and B, giving them something to go out and vote for. And that's important. That's important. Otherwise, what's democracy?
And just a minute's silence, shall we have for Kier Starmer this morning as he wakes up and goes...
what is he going through? Wakes up? Did he go to sleep?
On a serious note.
On
a serious note.
What's that?
Just a quick mention of this.
Oh, yes, I just saw it. Is it VE Day? It's the 80th anniversary of VE Day today, people. Let's take a moment to remember those who fell in defence of this country. Yes, let's do that. And also, let's remember why that happened and what they did and what they were defending, because what they were defending was our right to choose to live a life which is unencumbered by, ridiculous, jiggery pokery, Democrat killing,
and to be proud of our country, which we're not allowed to be anymore.
And to wave the flag of this country and to be very, very proud and to be able to walk down the street wearing whatever you want, doing whatever you want without being, arrested by some bloody, Starmer
rainbow-wielding flag.
Yeah, rainbow-wielding scumbag. Absolutely right. Well said. We've got so much to do. Rafe Heidelmann-Koo is here. He'll have plenty to say, I'm sure. Ralph Schoellhammer's coming on as well. Linda Doobly later. Mark Littlewood as well. We'll be talking about CPAC UK, which I'm going to be taking part in July, which is going to be fascinating. So much to talk about. Also, Jonathan Wong's going to be here to talk us through what's been going on in the Starmer rent boy scandal. Trial, which has been going on.
You can say firebumming.
Can we say firebumming?
You can say firebumming.
We can say the firebumming trial, we're going to bring you an update on that, as well as much else. Emma Wolf, great to see you on a Friday. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. We will be here, of course, until around about 10 o'clock. We've got Plank of the Week to do as well. It's all coming up after the news with Edward Hughes. Oh, no, sorry. It's with, what's her face? Fiona. Yeah, Fiona MacLeod. There we are.
Good morning. I'm Fiona MacLeod. Labour's getting absolutely mullered in the local elections. Starmer's lot haemorrhaging seats left, right and centre, while Reform UK storms in, like the guest who actually showed up to the party. Council's flipping like pancakes, and Keir's reset looks more like a factory reset with all the progress wiped. Meanwhile, the nation's dusting off the bunting for the 80th 5E Day anniversary, because nothing says we won the war quite like commemorating it while wondering if we can win a council seat in Hartlepool. God save the king and free the sausages. I mean hostages. Elsewhere, more synagogue arson probes. Talking of arson, we will be covering the firebombing case today. Also, a hantavirus cruise ship nightmare forcing Brits into isolation. Same old Britain, endlessly resilient, occasionally on fire, always sarcastic about it. Cheerio, tune in later for more exciting ways the country can disappoint everyone equally. Please, remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
Thank you very much indeed, Fiona McLeod there with the news. You'll be bringing it to us over the course of the this morning. If you are just waking up and you're joining us, and we've got a record number of people watching the show, by the way, this morning, so we're very grateful for that. Thank you very much indeed. Keep it coming. And don't forget, of course, as I told you, we will be hitting 20 million views very soon. We're at 19.3, 19.4, which has happened over the course of the last 2 or 3 days. It's absolutely extraordinary. Looking at the updated sort of figures, basically, for what's happening overnight, it looks very much as though it's a fantastic night for Reform, even better than I think they could have ever wished for. We've got numbers on screen which I think show that they've won at the moment something like 356 seats, is that? Yeah. Labour have got 245, but they've also lost 248. We are projecting, I think they were projecting that Reform could win as many as 2,000 seats, which we don't know yet whether that's going to be the case. We're still waiting for Wales and the Scottish local government seats to come into play. The Lib Dems seem to be up a little bit. The Conservatives down quite substantially by 126 seats as well. The Green Party up by about 50% to 48 seats. So, I mean, it's a very movable feast, obviously, so we'll keep you updated as best we can. But also, we're going to get Rafe Heidelman-Koo's view on it all. Rafe, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show. Absolutely extraordinary times. It looks like everything that was said about what Reform was going to do is actually happening, and with bells on, it would seem.
Turquoise dawn this morning.
Yes, very much so.
And yes, we are now fully in the era of multi-party politics.
Yeah.
That's the one thing to say. And it's a tale of two stories. It's a tale of Reform and the others.
Yes.
Because you've got Reform out in front, and then you've got the four other parties all polling between 15 and 20%. But essentially 1 in 3 returns are coming back for Reform.
Yes.
And I'm not afraid to say, but the reality is this is the shadow of Brexit still looms large.
Yeah.
Because if you look where Reform is doing very well, Reform is polling at about 50% in those areas that voted for Brexit, and is voting about 10% in those areas that were voted for Remain,
right.
and is the reverse for the Green Party. So the Green Party is polling in the Remain areas, so that's still looms large.
And in both of those places, it's Labour who are taking the hit, presumably.
Well, it's two things there. So Labour's taking the hit from the Greens, but it's also the Tories are taking the hit from Reform. So more votes from the Tories are going to Reform. But this is still a tale of how the Tories could have avoided this, because it's the 2019 coalition, those people that lent their vote to Boris Johnson to get Brexit done, that was betrayed, and that vote has now forever gone over, it seems, to Reform.
Interesting, isn't it? Richard Tice was saying that there's some evidence as well from his experience of knocking on doors that there's quite a big turnout for a local election, because normally local election turnouts are pretty weak, aren't they? They're sort of sometimes as low as 40% or even lower than that. But it'd be interesting if people have been galvanised enough to actually go out and vote locally because of the hatred they have for this government.
But that's just it, people aren't going out with great support for other parties, I think. This is a vote against Kier Starmer and against Labour. And, questions are obviously being asked behind the scenes now with in Labour. What next? We know that we're going to hear from Kier Starmer, who we expect is going to say simply, give me time to deliver my manifesto for change. But the question MPs are going to be asking is this the man that can get things done? Question is, there's no one that's clearly in the wings who can take over.
No.
Angela Rayner's polling has crashed. The unions aren't behind Angela Rayner, as she was hoping they would be. We're streeting big questions about him. People think he's too right-wing if you want to get back the Green Party vote. the most popular person in Labour, the only one with a favourability rating that's in the positives is Andy Burnham.
Yeah.
But the problem there is the only way he can get into Parliament is by winning a by-election. And if you look at the current results, there is no obvious place where he can stand.
Well, this is it. I mean, even around Manchester area, we're told that Thameside, which is Angela Rayner's sort of constituency, her backyard, if you like, Reform are even winning there. So there's no such thing even as a safe seat for Andy Burnham to stand in. And how embarrassing would it be to go, right, I'm going to become the next Labour Party leader, I'm going to run and win this local election, then lose it.
Exactly.
Right? And then he won't have a job at all. But also this morning, the Times on the front page saying that Ed Miliband has urged Kier Starmer to set a timeline for his departure, because they must be having those conversations, because this is even worse than Labour thought it would be, isn't it?
Much worse than they thought it would be. And the thing is, I've heard lots of whispers in Westminster that Miliband himself, Miliband, is going to actually on manoeuvres himself to come back.
I'm sure he is.
And you can remember the catastrophe.
But interestingly enough, he's kind of made it clear over the course of the last few days that he would quite fancy being Chancellor rather than being Prime Minister, which I think is an interesting manoeuvre from him, because what it says is, you don't have to be frightened of me, you don't have to worry about me wanting to lead the party and have this crazy net zero contribution to the world. But as Chancellor, he could actually be even more dangerous in a way.
Well, yeah. You talk about crazy net zero.
Yeah.
Imagine giving him full control over the economy. You thought Rachel from customer complaints was bad, you know.
But the other thing to talk about, I suppose, and I mentioned this earlier to Emma Wolf, is, does this also tell us that there are no longer any more Labour heartlands? The Labour heartlands are basically gone, burned to the ground.
Like a decade or a generation. You can never say what's going to happen after that.
Yes.
But the same thing applies to the Tories now as well. Everything is now up for grabs. The other story, of course, is that the Greens aren't doing as well as we thought they were going to be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, they've given quite a decent performance, but they're polling at around 18%, which is great. But, as UKIP found out, coming second doesn't get you anywhere. No. You can get millions of votes.
Do you think that's as a result of some of Polanski's manoeuvres over the past few days and maybe week, where he got himself into an awful lot of trouble and his personal popularity fell off a cliff because of what he said about the Golders Green terrorist incident?
Yeah, it hasn't helped at all. I mean, that's been a big wake-up call. I mean, I think people on the left were so distraught about Labour, and they saw the Green Party as representing the real left-wing politics that they wanted. But they hadn't considered the fact that, of course, that he's done a deal with the devil, an Islamist devil.
Yeah.
And that's become quite shocking to see the reaction to all of that. On the other side, the Tories have had some good news as well. I mean, Westminster has gone back to the Tories.
Yes. Wandsworth as well, I believe.
Wandsworth, my borough, it's lost control. There's no control over it. But the Tories are the biggest party. That's quite a surprise. Nobody expected the Tories to come up again in that way, in those places too. So it's quite an unexpected result as well.
So, I mean, overall, obviously, there's an awfully long way to go. There's an awful lot of other results that come in, particularly in Scotland and in Wales. I mean, but the early indications would seem to me to prove that we are entering a new era. That, as you say, there's now 5 parties that are sort of, fighting over the spoils. But I think Reform's wildest dreams, I don't think they could have ever expected to be this popular at this point, because we've also heard stories over time from the sort of mainstream media that Reform have peaked. They're running some councils not very well. People are seeing that the reality of Reform is not what the kind of promise of Reform is, if you like. But the public seem to be still very, very enthusiastic about the possibility of having a very different political landscape.
Yeah, and it's also, of course, because they are so disappointed and so fed up with the status quo, and they do want change. This is what Starmer promised, didn't deliver. Reform is promising change, and Reform has some great policies on how you're going to effect change, and people want that. They want hope, and for many people, they can see the state of the country, and they realise that Britain's facing existential crises on many fronts, and there's an urgency now. Change needs to happen almost overnight.
Yes.
So they are desperate for a new government to come in. So they're desperate for Reform to come in and try to save this country.
Yeah.
And we only have an election or 2 left when you can save this country.
Absolutely right, because if you look at what's going wrong in this country, I mean, we've got stories this morning about Chinese spies working inside the Home Office, which is so ludicrous and ridiculous that you start to ask questions like, well, what else is going wrong? We're about to grant the Chinese the ability to build an embassy just next to Tower Bridge, which is going to be over the fault lines, if you like, of cables which carry vital financial information between the City of London and Canary Wharf. We've got the inability to buy any weapons. The Times had a story this week saying we literally can't buy any. If there is a war, if we do suddenly find ourselves in a conflict with Iran or anybody else, we can't buy any weapons till 2030. We haven't got any money. We haven't got any ships. We haven't got the ability to stop people coming to this country illegally. You know, there's thousands more people. 200,000 people have come illegally, and we don't know what to do about it. Our prisons are full. People are rioting inside them. People, the NHS doesn't work. We are literally a failed state at this point, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, it makes the 1970s look like a golden era, actually, if you think about it.
Yeah.
In terms of the actual, we've been led by ideologues and by incompetence. And there's nothing worse than combining ideological incompetence.
The worst of all worlds. Brilliant.
All worlds together.
Yeah.
So things do need to change. But the other question, the other point, of course, is that it also shows you how the centre has betrayed the country for the last 25, 30 years. Everyone's gone now to Reform, to the Green Party. The centre ground doesn't exist any longer. And it's very hard to see how you're actually going to unite the country again, because everyone now seems to be in their portion, in their parcels. Polling, I don't know whether you're going to actually ever get, if we look towards a Westminster election, I don't know whether you're ever going to get a strong majority government again, where you're going to have the sort of leader that you had under Thatcher or Blair, who could command a huge portion of the centre ground. I think we're going to be in an era now where you're going to have maybe slim majorities, and most of the nation's going to be ranting against whoever's in power.
Yes, and I guess the questions now have to be asked about reform and about what they have in their locker, if you like, in terms of the depth of candidates, the depth of experience, the ability that they will now need to run all of these councils, because clearly it's quite a job to take on from a standing start.
It's a huge job. To Reform's credit, they understand the scale of the challenge that they face, and so they have professionalised hugely over the last year and a half, and let alone with their vetting of candidates and so forth, and the training that they're getting, media training and so forth as well. So I'm optimistic. They still have, of course, a long run up to the next general election as well, which is really when we need to make sure they have the right candidates in place. Yeah. But yes, they are going to be tested now by the time of the next general election on how they perform in these councils.
Absolutely. A couple of things just to pick up from social media. Reform have put out a tweet an hour ago saying Labour have gained no seats at all so far, have lost 53% of their seats they have declared already. This is a crushing defeat for Kier Starmer, and that's exactly what it looks like. The most recent toll of numbers that I've got here, Reform, 333 seats, which is plus 333, bizarrely. Labour, 243 seats, having lost 246. Lib Dems, 237, gains of 35. The Conservatives have lost 126 seats, but still have 214. The Greens have gained 25 seats and they're on 48. So they're still quite a low priority kind of for the country, it would seem, which is a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. And the question, I wonder how this polls historically in terms of Labour's performance. I mean, it's still early days. We still have a lot more to come in. And of course, we still have the question of Scotland and Wales as well, where it looks as if, Labour has lost in its heartland in Wales.
Well, they're likely to come third, aren't they? No, but whatever happens with Reform and Plaid, Cymru, they are likely to be third.
Yeah, and that's quite a tale for a land. I mean, you talk about the Labour heartlands. There was no stronger Labour heartland than Wales. That was their terror.
Well, I was listening to the BBC this morning, as I said, famously, remarkably stupidly, but I just thought I should listen to it and see what they were saying. And they were talking about, they had Lord Charlie Faulkner on, talking about the kind of the importance of South Wales to the whole Labour project, the whole Nye Bevan scenario, how many people came out of that particular part of the world, and how the sort of the engine room, if you like, of working class Labour was very much all about the mining cities and towns in the valleys of Wales, South Wales. It's all gone. Everything. It's gone.
But it's the same disconnect. We often talk about this long march through institutions. It's the same thing in politics. The people that have run the Labour Party bear no comparison to the people who were the traditional voting bloc. Yeah. And they've been betrayed as all our institutions have been disconnected. The Church of England, the police, our museums, everything just seems to have... Traditional Britain has been left behind.
They've been responsible for killing it off, and this is your area because you're an historian, and you know how important all of that should be. I mean, one of the reasons that we've sort of lost, I think, our ability to know who we are is because all of that has been systematically destroyed, and it's been done deliberately. Labour have done this. It started with didn't just start with Tony Blair, I suppose, but he kind of advanced the cause of globalism and how we should all be, part of the European Union. We should all be part of the united world, and we should all work together to make sure that we don't have any more wars and all of that. Well, how's that going? It's not going very well, is it?
Yeah, and of course you remember traditionally, historically, it was the unions and the Labour Party who were opposed to the European Union, opposed to the whole concept of globalism, and it's been completely spun on its head. And, just remember the lines of G.K. Chesterton, for we are the people of England that have not spoken yet. The English have been completely downtrodden for the last 30 years, I would say. They had a war of attrition against them, everything they stood for, all that they held dear, and they've had enough.
Yeah, exactly right. So, I mean, is this a sort of reset, if you like? I know that's a terrible word, which we don't really like to use, because it's sort of been a captured word by the left. But could this be a reset to more traditional Britain? And could we see people no longer being afraid to fly the flag and say that they're proud of their country and all of that? Could we see that?
Well, we are in that position, but as I say, the next election and two are so important because the demographics are against us at the moment. If we don't change around the education system, so by 2030, 1.4 million right-wing voters will have died. Only 400,000 left-wing voters will have died. That's why the next couple of elections are so crucial, because they're not being replenished. You probably had Professor Eric Kaufman on your show before, I'm not sure, but he's a good old friend of mine. He thinks Britain could be in for 20 years of Canadian-style wokery in the future because of the immigration and the youth of this country. So that's why it's so important that at the next election, we get a right-wing government, and the next one who can change the education system and stop the indoctrination of our youth and get more conservative youth in this country. Otherwise, we're going to go into a very dark period.
And also take the immigration situation and actually re-educate those people who are coming here and say, look, you want to come to this country, you adopt the ways of the country. We don't adopt your ways, which is kind of the way it's been going. We've suddenly had to go, sorry, you want to have halal meat? Oh, yeah. I mean, my local sort of big supermarket has got a massive halal section, right? And whenever I walk around in there, and this is not an issue of race or colour, I never hear an English voice. Everybody's foreign. Everyone is foreign, and they're either Eastern European or they're Lithuanian or whatever, whatever they are. But they're not. What they're not is English.
Well, we need a new government to come in and promote the British culture and British identity over everything else. For too often we've been promoting minority cultures over the prevailing British culture. We have to focus on what unifies us all together, and we should be unashamed to promote Britain first. In the 1970s and 80s, I used to love those American bumper stickers. America, love it or leave it. That was what I would love to see as a campaign slogan going into the next election.
Yeah, exactly right. And this whole kind of as you say, the march through the various different kind of establishment scenarios where we've got a Home Office which is riddled apparently with spies. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out it's a lot worse than we thought it was, right? A Defence Department which is riddled with people who don't know what they're doing, the work from home culture, all of the things that have kind of ruined Britain in the past 5 years or 6 years or so. It all needs to be reversed. And we've got the birth rate problem as well, where you've got immigrants coming in having 5 times as many kids as homegrown national families, right? And that's only going to end badly, isn't it?
Yeah, and you wonder, is it a coincidence that Labour wants to get rid of the 2-child benefit cap? Of course, trying once again to appeal to the Muslim vote. Because the funny thing with immigration is almost every immigrant community, their birth rate falls to the British average within a generation, apart from the Muslim community. They're the only ones with the increasing birth rate. You're quite right. This is such an existential crisis. That's why I say the next 2 elections are crucial to reverse Tony Blair's long march through institutions, to reverse what's happened to this country is a 20 or 30-year project. And the great shame and tragedy is we should be 15 years into that project if the Tories had done their job correctly. So there's a big task for reform to get control of if they do end up forming the next government in terms of trying to save this country.
And what do you think the future is for the Tories? Because people have said recently, Kemi Badenoch's doing quite well, she seems to be reviving the Tories' hopes. Well, this today, what we've seen so far, looks like, that ain't happening.
No, I mean, Kemi Badenoch has performed much better. There's no denying that at all. But one person don't make a party, my dear. The reality is the Tory party MPs are as wet as ever. There's no point having somebody who's sounding the clarion call if you don't have anyone to come to you when they hear it. The Tory party, as far as I'm concerned, needs to die. You have to unite the right. If we have any chance of saving this country, we need to have a united right, because actually the majority of people in this country vote for centre-left and left-wing parties. The only reason we've had strong governments on the right in the past is because the left have been fractured between 5 different parties. We cannot have that on the left, on the right. Otherwise, we're going to have some Frankenstein
Although maybe
coalition.
now the Greens will actually do that job for us, in the sense that they will split the Labour vote. I mean, we're told that pretty much they've already taken all of the kind of Corbynista types who were the anti-Semites in the Labour Party who've now gone. But maybe if they can take a few more of the dwindling Labour support, they'll be out for a generation.
In normal times, that would be the case. The problem is now there is this: the left have portrayed Reform and Nigel in such a pantomime villain sort of way that people on the left genuinely think this is a fascist far-right government in waiting that's happening. Whereas in reality, they're just like 1980s conservatives. That's all they are. They're 80s Tories, but they're being portrayed as this thing. So you're going to see tactical voting at the next election like you've never seen before.
Yeah.
There will be no party loyalty.
No.
There's no more tribalism. I'm Labour, I'm Green.
Yeah.
They're going to vote for whoever's going to stop a Reform Party candidate.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important that you unite the right.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be a fantastic day. It's going to be very exciting. Rafe Harderman-Koo, thank you so much for the New Culture Forum, of course. Historian, intellectual. He's about the most intelligent man we ever have on this show, actually. So I'm very grateful for you to come in on a Friday. Thank you very much. We've got Ralph Schoellhammer to join with us very shortly. By the way, I just wanted to say, at one point, about 5 minutes ago, we had about 18,500 people watching this show, which is a record, an all-time record. Tribute to you, I think, as well, Rafe. But let's talk to Ralph Schoellhammer, who is here, because I'm going to ask him, how do we maintain Britain? How do we get Britain back? And is this the beginning, perhaps, of doing that? Ralph, very good morning to you, sir.
Hi, Mike. Good to talk to you. How's the sound today? How's the sound quality?
Well, listen, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling optimistic for the first time in a while because the people are speaking, and they are speaking with one voice, and it's very much a voice around the backing of reform, as Rafe just said, a kind of, not an extreme right-wing organisation, as they're sometimes painted to be, but a sort of centre-right, Thatcherite almost, return. And I guess the question for you is can they get Britain back, and can they sort of reconnect with our traditional voting system and our traditional people, and can they make Britain great again?
Well, obviously, if you need a guy with a German accent to comment on Britain's elections, you're not yet in the green. Metaphorically speaking, not party politically speaking. No, I think there is. I looked at. I think it was a couple of hours ago when they looked at the city councils, and if I got the numbers correct, Labour lost 83% of the seats that they were defending. And I'm very curious to see what happened in Scotland and Wales. So this is an earthquake. I think there's a lot of debate going on and saying, well, don't overestimate, don't interpret too much into these results. But Reform wanted to deliver. They have delivered. They convinced people who for generations, I would say, have either voted for the Tories or for the Labour Party. And what you see here is a little bit the reverse of what happened in Hungary a couple of weeks ago. So there is this idea, and you see it being tried in the United States as well. For a certain amount of time, you can create an electoral system that is very resisting to change, that is designed to resist change. But if the dam breaks, right, if the avalanche picks up speed, it can also work into the other direction. So this is what happened in Hungary, right, where Fidesz created an electoral system that was designed to kind of safeguard their position. But once the population shifted, it had the exact opposite effect. And I think the same, of course, can now be true in the UK as well. You create a system that was originally very favorable for a 2 or maybe 3-party system and was very difficult to be overcome by a new party. But if the people have had enough, and I think that's the case in the UK, then what can happen is that very quickly a new party, a new movement can get close to power also very quickly. And I would say, and I'm sure that many of your viewers will agree, general elections cannot come soon enough.
Yes. And the reason I'm asking you these questions, Ralph, is not because I need your expertise on the British electoral system, but it was more about the kind of cultural kind of change and the shift, because all Western European countries are suffering the same problem in the sense that, you have this influx of people coming in from overseas, particularly the Muslim population, having more and more kids, changing the face of the country, right? And not just in inner cities, but also in other parts of the country as it spreads. And we have a falling birth rate, as most Western European countries do. And in the end, just a purely mathematical equation will tell you that in 25, 30 years, in a generation, say, for example, you will have fewer and fewer what you might call white British European people living here, and more people who have come from elsewhere who are Muslims.
Well, look at this. I don't think that this is a tricky argument to make. So bear with me for a second. I don't think that the majority culture has really changed. I think what has happened is that the majority was silenced by an elite that turned against them. I mean, the Canadian commentator Mark Stein always calls it was a revolt by the elites against the people. And I think that's actually a good way to put it. Yeah. I mean, if you look at polls over the last 40 years, I always go back to Enoch Powell. Right, the public's attitude in the UK, for example, towards migration has been the same for 60 years. So this is not the only difference now, which I'm very happy about, is that people say, you know what, it is time for something new. The Tories have been gaslighting, have gaslit. There you see that English is not my first language. Yeah. We have been gaslighted by the Tories. We have been gaslighted by the Labour Party. I mean, look at Boris Johnson. I mean, the term Boris wave says everything you need to know. So I think what's happening now is that the people say, okay, it is time for something new. It probably took them longer than it should have. The same, of course, in Europe. And so this is an encouraging sign. The only issue is, and this is what you also see, I think, in this election, I think left and right is still helpful as a category, right? There are many people who say forget left. I think it's still helpful in some areas. But what you also see is, so you have reform on one side and a little bit restore. By the way, I think restore will have an important role to play because they are kind of the thorn in Nigel Farage's side that will keep him on target. Because I'm always a little bit queasy about Nigel, right? That, you know, if you look at his interviews, he says A, then he says B. So what's he actually going to do? But if Rupert Lowe, even though they might not be a political force, if they are present enough in the public debate to really keep reform on from remigration to other things on target, that's an important role to play. Yeah, but you also see the left, let's call it the woke Islamist alliance, which I would say is also gaining in strength. And I think ultimately that's the true dividing line. You have the forces of patriotism / nationalism. I know that's still a little bit of a dirty word in the UK. And on the other side, you have, you know, the postmodern and, I don't know, Islamist, woke, whatever you want to call it, you know, green, red or green, red alliance. And I think this is the true conflict line of the future.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, obviously there are those who will be critical of reform, some of them who support the Rupert Lowe side of things, but also they say, well, you know, they're becoming a bit mainstream. They're no longer the party that we thought they were. The reality, surely, is that in sort of realpolitik, if you like, at the end of the day, there is a sense that you have to be a bit more mainstream if you want to get the whole country behind you, if you want to get enough votes. I mean, this is a great indication. Apparently more people are coming out to vote in this local election than we've seen before. We haven't got an official figure, but it looks as though the count will be quite high. So people are getting interested in politics because they want to change things.
Yeah, no, and I think that's true. But what do we mean by mainstream? The great strategy of the left, and they've been very successful in this, that they have redefined what mainstream is. And so they set the rules by which everybody else has to play. And I believe that the right has to reverse this. I mean, we talk about this, you know, whether it's migration, whether it's, you know, the transgender issue, it's that they define what the center is. They define what the middle ground is. And this means that they set the rules by which everybody else has to play. And I think it is about time that the right starts to set the rules. They give you a concrete example. If it is an outrage, I'm referring to the Raise the Flag movement a couple of months ago. If you live in a country where it is normal to raise the transgender flag, but it's abnormal, so to speak, at least in what the mainstream media tells you, to raise the Union Jack or the St. George's Cross, I think that is something that you have to reverse. It should be the other way around. So there should be a Pride Month, yes, but Pride in Britain, Pride in the UK, Pride in England, but not pride in some gender ideology. In comparison, which one of those two is supposed to be normal, quote unquote, and which is supposed to be not normal? The mainstream, so to speak, has been poisoned. And I think it's time to detoxify the mainstream and make it what it was, yes, I dare say, 60 years ago. I mean, if you look at the positions of the so-called far, super heavy, crazy, insane right, those were complete common sense positions 40 years ago. I think they're complete common sense positions today. But if you shift the center further and further to the left, at some point the complete common sense right-wing position appears to be far right when in fact they're not.
No, it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be a very interesting 24 hours, that's for sure. Ralph, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. And have
Mike,
a lovely weekend. Will you be back?
Yes, I'll be back. And please tell your viewers that we have planned, I hope I'm not taking anything away, to do this every Friday on a regular basis. So if you want to listen to the German accented commentary on British politics, you have to tune in to Mike Graham every Friday.
Well, this is what we live for. Hang on.
Got a comment there, look.
We've got a comment. Ralph for Prime Minister. There you go. Listen, we may have to adopt you as an honorary British citizen at this point.
Listen, I think German kings were enough in the UK. German-speaking kings, yes. German-speaking prime ministers, maybe in 100 years.
Maybe in 100 years. Like you said, 100 years ago it would have sounded mad. Not anymore.
That's
bring it on.
true.
I'm looking forward to it. Ralph Schoellhammer there. He's going to be our man every single Friday. What a great thing to look forward to, because this is what we do here on the Mike Graham Show. I'm wondering, by the way, Pooch, if I'm slightly, over to the side. Should I go like that a bit? Because I'm cutting off my own name. Which is never a good thing, which I don't like to do. So much going on today, right? We are looking forward to the next update. I haven't got one for a while. Reform UK.
I've got it. There you go.
Oh, go on. So at the moment, look, Reform 376 seats up, Conservatives down 157, Labour down 253 seats. They basically lost every single seat that they've contested so far. The Lib Dems up 37, the Greens up 26, and others down 26. So the Scottish Parliament and the Welsh Senedd we're still waiting for, of course, and you probably won't get that during the course of this show. But there's a headline I just want to raise attention to. Andrew chased by a man in balaclava. Now, I know it's a serious story, so we shouldn't make fun of it, because that would be wrong. But when I saw that, I said to Pooch this morning, I said, it sounds like something that might have happened on Epstein's Island. Andrew chased by a man in balaclava. And in my head, I'm thinking, he's not wearing anything else. He's just got balaclava on, completely naked, and he's running after Andrew. Of course, we don't call him, as it was pointed out to me the other night on the live show, he's not Prince Andrew anymore, is he? He's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. So, shall we have a little bit of news with Fiona MacLeod, who last time I'm told was a bit quiet.
Yeah, I've tried to do something.
I'm going to see whether we can get her slightly louder. Let's have a look.
Morning, I'm Fiona MacLeod. Labour's getting absolutely mullered in the local elections. Starmer's lot haemorrhaging seats left, right and centre, while Reform UK storms in, like the guest who actually showed up to the party. Council's flipping like pancakes, and Keir's reset looks more like a factory reset with all the progress wiped. Meanwhile, the nation's dusting off the bunting for the 80th 5E Day anniversary, because nothing says we won the war quite like commemorating it while wondering if we can win a council seat in Hartlepool. God save the king and free the sausages. I mean hostages. Elsewhere, more synagogue arson probes. Talking of arson, we will be covering the firebombing case today. Also, a hantavirus cruise ship nightmare forcing Brits into isolation. Same old Britain, endlessly resilient, occasionally on fire, always sarcastic about it. Cheerio, tune in later for more exciting ways the country can disappoint everyone equally. Please, remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
You sound a bit cynical this morning with the old news there, more people being disappointed. We're not being disappointed this morning, because this morning what we are seeing, it seems to me, is a bit of a seismic shift in the electoral landscape of this country, because finally it's as though all the things that we've been saying, that I've been saying over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, are starting to come true. Nigel Farage gave an interview to the Sunday Times, I think last weekend, in which he said, unless I'm deluded, I think we're going to have a very, very good local election. And so far, it is proving to be just like that. It is proving to be the case. So, quick super chat, a couple of them coming in. Voice for England says this: Fiona sounds like she's hiding from Edward Hughes. Well, I think a lot of people are, including Mrs. Hughes. This one from Judas, who says, a quote from Churchill's VE Day speech: we were the first in this ancient island to draw the sword against tyranny. Advance Britannia, long live the cause of freedom. God save the king. Congrats, says Judas Goat from Texas, USA. One from R Squared. Keep the green banana there until Keir steps down. Can the banana outlive him? Could be a daily segment. Well, even as we speak, I think the banana's turning yellow. What do you think, Pooch? No?
It's going greener.
You think?
Yeah.
See, the trouble is, right, I bought these bananas thinking that they would turn yellow, but they seem to be staying green. I don't understand.
Have you still got the receipt?
No, well, I don't think so. You're going to take it back and go, oi, this is not a yellow banana, guys. I don't know, but I think maybe it's some kind of new development, maybe some kind of new, Frankenstein science, we would call it in the Daily Mail in the old days, and say, they've now made bananas that don't turn yellow. Because I can feel with my fingers that it's soft enough to eat. And do you remember the one we cut open yesterday?
Right, that's a specialist video happening there. Please stop that.
Call for Alan Montgomery. Anyway, listen, let's talk now to Liz Barclay, who's here.
We've got Jonathan Wong here first.
Oh, we got Jonathan Wong first. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, Liz Barclay. Sorry.
I thought it was Liz Barclay.
No, it is.
You see, he's correcting me and he's wrong. See, that's not helping me. I've got enough problems, right? Liz Barclay was the UK Small Business Commissioner from July 21 to June 2025. We're going to talk to her about small business, but I mean, one of the things that's happened to this country is that small businesses all but disappeared because the bleeding government have made it really hard for them. Liz, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. It is extremely hard for, especially the smaller end, the micro businesses, the 0 to 5s. They're the ones that I'm really worried about.
Yes, well, I mean, as a newly formed small business, I can tell you it's not easy out there because it's like the old joke they used to have in America. How do you start a small business? Set off with a big one at first and watch the government tear it down, and then suddenly haven't got very much money. But it has been really tough, hasn't it? Particularly in this economic climate. Tell us.
Yes, but it's the geopolitical climate as well as just the climate in the UK. I've set up my own small business again, co-founder of Business 111. You are one of the people that we're setting out to help. We're trying to get support to micro businesses that really need it in the areas they're in, as personalised as possible. But what we're finding is that a lot of that support is disappearing too because local authorities are not paying for it. And I suppose my call to action this morning is to all those new councillors, talk to your micro businesses in your local area first, because if they don't survive, households aren't going to survive. Behind every micro business, there is a family trying to make a living. And if they're not there and they're quietly closing, if they do have any employees, they're letting them go as well. They're at the stage where they're not able to take home a salary. And they're trying to appeal, obviously, to people who have less money in their pockets. So we've got a real crisis here. And local authorities, local councillors do have some power to help make it easier for local businesses to do business.
Yes. And I mean, an awful lot of people say to me, who I speak to just on a regular basis, that they've just folded their businesses up because it's become so difficult for them, either from a tax point of view or from a red tape point of view, or just, business rates and everything seems to be sort of crashing in at the same time, doesn't it?
It is, and I think that's part of the problem, is that everything's coming in at the same time. It seems to me that one department decides we're going to do X, and another department decides Y and Z, but everybody brings the same, brings their changes in at the same time, which just makes it all the more difficult for those micro and small businesses to comply with the rules. But in the meantime, you've got local authorities putting up parking charges, cutting subsidies to bus routes, etc. If you don't get the customers into the high street, there's nobody to spend anything. And so lots of businesses are just closing quietly. I'm calling it quiet closing. But it really does have a vast impact on local areas. And of course, those small businesses are the ones that are paying for the children's playgrounds and subsidising charities, etc. in their area. So everything suffers if the small businesses suffer.
And what are you hoping to achieve in terms of, getting access to local government aid or from national government? I mean, what is it you're trying to do specifically?
I'm not trying to, what I'm trying to do is to provide a spine of information that is available to micro businesses, sources of information. There's lots of sources of information out there. For instance, there's the Freelancer Club for freelancers. There's IPSE for the self-employed. There's lots of those organizations that are already providing really good advice and information and support, but people don't know where to find them. And if you're busily running a small business, as you know, you haven't got time to look at 3:30 in the morning. So I'm offering a single gateway. Come to Business 111. We'll tell you where the support is in your area for the issue that you have. And we'll help you to navigate to that help of advice and support. And I think that will really help people. But what we are saying to local authorities is we can help you too, because we know you're short of cash. We can help you with that spine of information to give out to your local micro businesses, small businesses. And then if you do have any money for support, you can support the enterprise agencies, for instance, that are really struggling at the moment to get money in to help run courses that help people start businesses. It's easy to start a business in the UK, but it's not easy to keep it going. And that's what I hope to achieve.
Yes, and I mean, one of the things that a lot of people complain to me about at the moment is this new fangled tax system where you're supposed to now register with the HMRC brigade, every month or something instead of every quarter. And it's becoming really, really ridiculous in terms of the way that, like VAT, for example, one of the things that really bugs me is that if it wasn't for me, the government wouldn't have the amount of money that I raise on their behalf, which I keep none of. There was a time when I first started because I was making less money, I suppose. You got to keep, 8 points out of the 20 that you were able to charge VAT on. Then it became 4 points. Then it became no points. So I'm literally like collecting money on behalf of the government. I'm getting somebody to pay it to me. I'm giving it to them. I get no benefit whatsoever, except I have to pay an accountant to do it. And I'm going, well, this is ridiculous, isn't it?
We call it making tax difficult. But to be fair, if you get yourself on the system and if you're using the right software, it really will help you to run the business, because you will be able to see in much more real time what your cash flow looks like. And an awful lot of us spend too much time working in the business and not on the business. So we're not seeing how the business is actually doing. We're not noticing that we have invoices that haven't been paid. We're not noticing that our cash flow is really struggling. And I think that the thinking behind making tax digital is that it will help you in the long run. It's just getting over this awful hurdle of getting on the system. And
my problem with that, though, is that nothing the government does helps me. And as a business person, and I'm not even the head of the business, financially speaking, I just know that many people like me find it very, very complicated. And that's why I've got an accountant, and I pay the accountant to do all that. So, I don't need to know anymore. That the government doesn't need to help me anymore. It just needs to get the bloody hell out of the way.
And a lot of small businesses say exactly the same thing. Yeah. And to be fair, that's exactly what I said to HMRC yesterday.
Right, good.
It is really...
Don't give them my regards.
And I didn't think about doing that, Mike. But what I am saying to them is, you have created a tax system for big businesses.
Yeah.
It is completely disproportionate for micro and small businesses, and we really have to get to grips with that and simplify that system. Because you are asking businesses to spend so much time trying to navigate a complicated compliance system instead of working on the business.
Yep, couldn't agree more. It's good to see you. Thanks very much. Good luck with it. So it's called Business 111. People can sign up to that.
business111.com. We're there to help.
Okay, terrific. Thank you very much indeed.
You'll be signing up, I hope.
I'm sure I will be. Yeah, absolutely right. Liz Barkley there, trying to help people running small businesses, because it's a bloody nightmare the way that this government treats people. It's almost as though they think that they have a right to plunder your accounts. They have the right to put their hands in there and just grab a load of money and take it out. And I resent that, quite frankly, because one, I don't like what they do with it, and two, I don't wish to be able to give them access to my accounts and all of that. South Staff's Kev says the banana is the only thing that's going green today. Well, you may say that, but actually they're not doing too badly, the Greens, and they're probably going to gain quite a few seats. I love you, Mike Graham. You cheer me up every morning, says Buddhist. Thank you very much indeed. I am having a great time this morning as well. I had the same, staying green and couldn't eat it after a week, says Cornelius. Yeah, but the thing is, right, the green aspect of the banana, and I'm sorry about this, Pooch, I'm going to handle it again, is that it's clearly actually ripe. I can tell that it's ripe because I can feel, when I squeeze it, it feels soft inside. So it's not that it's not ripe. It's the fact that they've obviously now invented bananas which don't turn yellow. But even as I look at it, it looks more yellow than it was. John says, are you fixated on your banana? Get help. No, I'm not. I mean, I'll eat it if you like. Would you like me to? No, it's another specialist video for you. Me eating a banana. I can think of a couple of other. No, I'm not going to go there. An update on Vote 2026. I like that. We've given it a name. Look at that. 381 seats for Reform, 248 for the Conservatives. They're down 161 by the looks of it. Labour down 253 seats. We've got the Lib Dems up 36. We've got the Greens up 27. Others up, down actually, 26. I've got this as well, breaking news from Politics UK. Reform has taken control of Havering Council in its first London borough win. Labour way down, -4 seats. Reform up 30 seats. RES, what is RES? -7.
Rest.
Is that no obvious party or something? I don't know what that is. The rest, maybe. Conservatives down 19. So the Tories are the big losers there in Havering. The council had been under no overall control for 12 years, but it is now under the control of the Reform Party. Charlotte has just sent me the poll, because I don't think we've actually read this out yet, have we? Who would make the worst Prime Minister? Zach Polanski, David Lammy, Angela Rayner, or Hannah Spencer? And at the moment, Zach Polanski is leading at 60%. Because 7,973 of you have voted so far. That's a big number. We've got big numbers going on today. At one point, we nearly had 19,000 people watching live. We're still running around about 17,000, which is amazing. Super chat as well. One from Polly. You're the best channel on YouTube, Mike. We know we are. And we're getting better because we're soon going to be launching UK Live. Hey?
Liz is still watching.
Liz, yeah, Snides. Is Liz locked in Fritzl's cellar? I don't think that's fair. Not everybody can be, in a beautiful setting. Richard Tice didn't look like he was in a great place, did he? He was in some kind of photo booth style travel lodge or something like that. So, anyway, never mind. All is well.
There you go, one more.
One more. Liz was superb, says Alistair. She was good. Listen, I'm all in favour of anyone that wants to help out small business, because that's what we need. We need people to help small business rather than to punish it. The trouble is, most of the people who want to punish it are all in government, and none of them have ever run a small business, right? Can you imagine David Lammy trying to run a corner shop? He'd eat all the food, wouldn't he? You got any macaroni? No, I've eaten it all. I don't know why I thought of that. But anyway, listen, one of the highlights of this year, right, which we've all been looking forward to, is the firebombing trial, which has been going on the last sort of, when it opened like a week ago Monday, didn't it, down at the Old Bailey. The 3 Ukrainian male models, a very strange story, which many people here have been asking questions about. Many people have asked me before, is it true that, that Kier Starmer has put a D notice on it? No, not true. Is it true that there are reporting restrictions on it? No, not true. But what is true is that an awful lot of what you might call the mainstream media have not really been covering the trial. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine who knows some people over at the BBC. And apparently the BBC haven't sent anybody to cover the trial, which seems a bit odd, doesn't it? Given that the fires that were set, both in a car and in a house, and in two houses actually, two properties, all belong to Kier Starmer. Last week we saw some kind of unusual reporting in the Mail and the Sun, a couple of page leads around about Thursday, I think it was, in which it said that there was some kind of weird Russian sort of spy master, if you like, puppet master, who paid these guys to target well-known individuals and set fire to stuff. But it's very odd, because the story was that, the allegation is anyway, that a fire was set in the former home of Kier Starmer, which apparently now is occupied by his wife's sister. This is in North London, somewhere near Camden. A car was set on fire, which used to belong to Kier Starmer, but which no longer does belong to him. And another property, which also used to house Kier Starmer when he was a single man, I think, had an arson attack on it as well. So we're going to talk to Jonathan Wong, who's an independent journalist from Vox Populi. He's been covering the trial, and he can tell us an awful lot more about it than I can. So, Jonathan, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Very, very good morning. Just checking, you got my audio well? You can hear me?
Yeah, I can, absolutely. Yeah, I can hear you, and we quite like, so far you get best background of the day, because we've had a couple of people who look like they're in photo booths, so welcome.
I'm actually at my friend's house. But yeah,
fine, okay. It's a weird story, this, isn't it? Because it doesn't seem to make any sense to me. The idea that we've got this kind of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of Mr. Big character, who's some kind of Russian character who wants to somehow embarrass and or seek to get money out of famous people in this country by asking young Ukrainian men to go and set fire to stuff. I mean, it's kind of like, why? None of it makes any sense. Tell us what you've been able to learn from it.
Okay, so actually, you might find it actually makes less sense after I've told you what's happened. So this guy is called, right, so he's called L Money. So his name's actually translated from Ukrainian from a Telegram group.
Right.
So how he came about finding these Ukrainian / Romanian chaps was through a group chat on Telegram called London Jobs for Ukrainians. So all three of the defendants do basically odd jobs, decorating jobs. So those are some kind of group that a big bunch of construction workers, etc. are in. So he has previously worked for this L Money figure.
Right.
So they did like flyering, basically construction jobs. So I think it escalated into doing more dodgy stuff.
Right.
So so there are records of these on Roman. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his surname because it's a tongue twister. Lovlenrich. He was the first one to be arrested, and he's the only one who has been charged with the actual arson itself. The other two are only for conspiracy to commit the arson. So I can only report on the evidence that's presented to the jury,
right.
And thus far there hasn't been any evidence to actually suggest that any of them actually know who Kier Starmer is.
Right.
So that is a very interesting part. But obviously that doesn't sound as spicy. So many media, like, they're trying to focus on the Kier Starmer connection. So the three properties that were arsoned. First was the car that you mentioned previously that used to belong to Kier Starmer, but he sold it to his neighbor. Right. Second is a property in Elegant Street, which Kier Starmer used to be a director of a company that manages that property, but he hasn't been a director since 1998. That is like 18 years ago. So that's kind of a loose link. And then the third property, Countess Road, belongs to his sister, or it still belongs to Kier Starmer, but it's occupied by his sister-in-law.
Right.
So when the more information about this L Money figure, he is according to Roman, when he was arrested, he said this guy is, in his prepared statement, in his interview, he said this guy is a fluent Russian and Ukrainian speaker. He didn't specify whether or not he is Russian or Ukrainian. He said he's fluent in both and interchange between the two.
Yeah.
So, but obviously because the Russian war, so a lot of the press is focusing on the Russian connection, but we don't have specific evidence to suggest it's one way or the other at present.
Okay. So from what you can understand, this character has got these guys basically committing acts which are illegal for presumably some kind of financial gain or something. I mean, is it clear or not clear what his motivation was to ask them to do it?
Okay, so so this is very interesting because the court case, I believe, when it opened, the opening statement, the prosecution actually said that the motivation behind the attacks is irrelevant. You only have to determine whether, I'm paraphrasing, whether or not the defendants are committed to criminal acts.
Right. Okay.
So to me, sounds very interesting that why they would preempt the idea that you should look for the motive. Because to most of the audience, the motive behind it is probably the more important than whether or not the arson attack has occurred. I don't know whether you agree with that. So there's very little information on this L Money figure. Although there's a separate L, same spelling, 2 capital letters EL on another defendant. I think is in Pedro Puchnok in his phone that has similar images that was the forensic has found on Roman's phone, which has buildings and the front door circled in red in a very similar style, and the properties that were circled on Roman's phone was the 2 properties that was arsoned.
Right.
Okay. And on this is gonna like, what the hell? So the ones on the Pitchnocks one are actually Islamic centers in London. One of them in Croydon. Right. So, but they haven't suffered arson attack, but it's a strange, like, kind of left field. That why would there be similar imageries to suggest that?
Yeah, right.
And in addition to that, Roman actually did some flyering for this L Money figure previously, and one of the flyers that he actually said he refused to do was actually a flyer in Southall that says, London will not be free until it learns the lessons of Adoha, which is a city in India, and the font of the flyer is actually in Hindi, the style, the font style, and he has a QR code to a petition to ban Islamic centers and so forth. So that I don't know whether or not this has been reported. It's part of the evidence bundle that has been presented in court. But it seems like, why have we got like a Russian-Ukraine connection and then randomly an India connection?
Yes.
So
I mean, I guess there are quite a lot of connections between Russia and India. I suppose you might say, if you were grasping at the odd straw, you go, well, there is some synergy there. But are we likely to see any of these guys who are accused actually taking the stand and giving evidence themselves?
Yes. Yeah, actually, Roman actually took the stand. So I have to rely on information that is relayed to me by my colleagues, because I am in Great Yarmouth at the moment covering the election.
All right. How's that all going up there, by the way?
He's crazy up here. I follow the campaign. There's quite a lot of people that Rupert has managed to rally out, but it's very interesting to see what the result is. It's the vote count day to day. It'll be in at 11 a.m. So I will go in there and I'll be reporting live, but there's no video recording. There are restrictions on video recording inside, but we will be reporting throughout the day, because I understand you've been covering the election, but the Great Yarmouth doesn't start until 11.
Yes, no, I know. 11. I mean, that's part of the problem with local elections, is that a lot of them don't bother counting till, I don't know why they don't count overnight, but there we are. So we'll look forward to your dispatches on that. But so this case is scheduled, I think, to go on for about another couple of weeks, maybe 3.
It's total 3 to 4 weeks. Yes, that's right.
Okay. And it's just, I mean, you're right. I mean, I'm no more better informed now than I was before you told me all of those stories. But because it still just doesn't really, unless and until you work out what their motivation was and what this guy wanted them to do and why, it's kind of you don't know what to make of it, really, do you?
Well, yeah, okay. So basically, in the entire thus far, Roman is the first defendant to take the stand, and he said he has no idea who Kier Starmer is. And the evidence, because the forensic has a copy of his mobile phone. When they arrested him in the early hours of, I believe, I think 12th or the 13th. Probably the 13th, I think. Sorry, because I don't have my notes with me. He was arrested in his home, and with 2 other individuals. One is his grandmother and his friend Sawyer, and they seized 3 mobile phones. And he claims to own one of them, which sounds normal. And he gave the police the PIN number straight away. And the police was able to clone a copy of the phone. So and Roman is not the smartest cookie, and he hasn't deleted any of his messages. So a lot of the evidence actually just came from his phone. There are a lot of interactions with other defendants that is one directional, because the other side has deleted their messages and he hasn't. So there is no evidence in any thus far, because obviously not all evidence has, because we got cross-examination later, and they haven't completed presenting evidence. Thus far, there's no evidence that any of them even mentioned Kier Starmer or of any acknowledgement in any of the tax exchanges. The only single reference indirectly to Kier Starmer is from Money to Roman after the fact that the 3 arson attacks has already occurred. He said, the first part I can quote because I remember off by heart is, "You have attacked a home of a very high-ranking British individual." And then the following, which was urging him to leave the city, telling him that if he gets detained, send me a secret message with a geranium, which is like a flower. Then he'll send him a lawyer and give him expenses to cover him for a week. So the only person that acknowledges Kier Starmer or a high-ranking British individual, they didn't even name him. So I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that the 3 defendants actually know who Kier Starmer is. So they basically, Money basically offered him jobs, and the jobs escalated. And Roman actually even tried to outsource one of the jobs to a person called Clement. I can't remember the extension, 9247 or something, on Instagram. And then the Clement gentleman, who is not a part of the defendants. So I'm not sure if he was one of the people that were arrested, subsequently released without charge, or one that was still pending investigation, because there are 2 more people that were previously arrested but haven't been charged. He said, he said something like, that's bloody arson. It's criminal. So he was unsuccessful in outsourcing some of the jobs that Money gave him. But there are a vast amount of evidence. I don't know whether it has been reported wildly that Roman, there are data from his phone that shows the location of him traveling to and back from each of the locations before the attack, during the attack in the hours, and post-attack to take more photos. And they're not very bright. They turned off the phone. They turned the phone on like airplane mode, maybe about 5 minutes away from the thing. But they travel with public transport, paid with Apple Pay, so they've got their phone, so they've got the full record of. So it's easy to get CCTV. There's literally a CCTV footage of two of the defendants, Roman and I think Kopperick. They were shaking hands, basically down the street from where the car arson was, and then 3 minutes later, the fire brigade 999 call came in. So they are not very good at covering the tracks, especially some Roman gentlemen. In terms of motivations, we may or may not find out more because one of the suggestion of defendants may use is that the completeness of evidence, because all we can see is what the CPS deemed relevant to the case and present to us. So, but we can't speculate on what is missing,
right?
Because we can only base on what we have seen in the evidence to present to the jury.
Yeah.
So, but
it's a very odd story, isn't it? It's really, really weird.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. But I do know for a fact that the clone of the data from the mobile phones it is the CPS that basically go through them with the forensics to provide the messages that they deem relevant. So the defense doesn't actually have a copy of the complete data dump.
Right.
So therefore, there may be other things that may emerge later that they may find relevant. So we don't know, because they don't seem to be interested in our money. Because, right, say you bust a drug gang, you got all the runners, and you're like, oh, it doesn't matter who the kingpin is. Right. So to me, that doesn't make any sense.
No.
So yeah.
No. Well, none of it makes any sense, really. But anyway, listen, Jonathan, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. We'll look out for your reports later on the Great Yarmouth situation. Jonathan Wong there for Vox Populi, trying to explain the Starmer arson trial without much, which is just weird, isn't it? It's just really weird. Martin says, can you get Fiona on eating the banana? We could try. Yeah. You could probably make that happen, right?
I'll ask her.
See if she fancies it. I don't know. Also, I think what we should do, right? We've got a Green Party video, which I'd quite like to play, apparently celebrating their victory in one of the council seats. But we'll do that after the news, shall we? With Fiona. Fiona McLeod coming up with the news. Coming up after that, Linda Dubley's here, Mark Littlewood's here. We're going to speak to Kane Blackwell about CPAC as well. And we'll play this Green Party video because it's quite interesting.
Good morning, I'm Fiona McLeod. Labour's getting absolutely mullered in the local elections. Starmer's lot haemorrhaging seats left, right and centre, while Reform UK storms in, like the guest who actually showed up to the party. Council's flipping like pancakes, and Keir's reset looks more like a factory reset with all the progress wiped. Meanwhile, the nation's dusting off the bunting for the 80th 5E Day anniversary, because nothing says we won the war quite like commemorating it while wondering if we can win a council seat in Hartlepool. God save the king and free the sausages. I mean hostages. Elsewhere, more synagogue arson probes. Talking of arson, we will be covering the firebombing case today. Also, a hantavirus cruise ship nightmare forcing Brits into isolation. Same old Britain, endlessly resilient, occasionally on fire, always sarcastic about it. Cheerio, tune in later for more exciting ways the country can disappoint everyone equally. Please, remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
Fiona McLeod there with the news. Nice to see her on a Friday. We've got a few different videos to play you actually over the course of the next hour or so, because it's 8:39, believe it or not. I don't know where the time goes. I can't believe it's Friday already. I can't believe we've sort of already got ourselves through the first week of May. It's extraordinary, really, isn't it? What does it say? Friday, May the 8th. It's been a really busy week, and of course, we did that great live show in the middle of it all, which we'll play a little clip from. If you weren't able to get a ticket to come and see it, there will be a video going out to Substackers and to YouTube Premium. So if you're a subscriber to Substack and a subscriber to YouTube Premium, you will get a special free gander at what we do live. So if you want to watch it, please do sign up to our Substack, which is themikegramshow.com, or sign up to YouTube Premium. Sunday night, you thinking? Yeah, that could work, couldn't it? And so will that be on? Will it be actually on YouTube? But you won't. It'll just be. But you won't be. But you won't be able to see it unless you're a YouTube Premier member or a Substack person who pays, right?
7 p.m. Sunday night.
Also, strangest story of the day I should probably mention: Kim's boobs sprayed by car shop in Kent. That's the headline on the front page of the Sun, right? Which, as Pooch said, is a great headline. There's a picture of Kim Kardashian, who apparently went to an auto repair shop in Kent. And its owner said that he was honoured to be asked to spend 13 hours creating orange fiberglass at his garage in Lydd. He said felt very proud at seeing reality star Kim wear it in New York. So basically what she wore to the Met Gala was made in Kent, in a place called Lydd, which is quite near where old Paul McCartney lives. And apparently there's an airport there. He used to use it to fly in and out on his little plane. So yeah. Very strange story. A bit of an update on the voting scenario. We've got, 387 seats gained by Reform. Conservatives down 163, Labour down 256, Lib Dems up 35, Greens up 27 to 51. So it's a massive, massive night for Reform, basically. I mean, that's the message that's coming out now. A terrible night for the Labour Party. And, of course, now the retributions will begin. We're told that Kier Starmer might be on his way to account somewhere. That's not a misprint. Where apparently he's going to make some kind of statement or other. We can only hope, can't we? Can pray that Starmer will come out of his car to a resounding load of boos, which will no doubt follow him everywhere he goes, and he'll just say, "I have decided for the good of the country, because it's good for Great Britain, to step." Just go. Just go. I mean, if you ever wanted a better reason or a better indication of how the country feels, I mean, this is a local election, right? And people have gone out in bigger numbers than ever at a local election to just give Keir Starmer a message. And the message is, bugger off, right? That's it. Simple. Let's talk to Linda Duberly. Let's find out what she makes of it all. Linda, very good morning to you.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Very well indeed. Very nice. I was going to say very nice to see you, but I can't actually see you at the moment. I don't know where you are.
No, I can't.
No, where are you?
I'm not sure what I can do at this. I'm not sure what I can do at this end.
Are you hiding? Is this some kind of game?
Right in front of the camera.
Ah, right. Okay. All right. Well, let's just pretend that we can see you, and we'll just talk to you in the meantime. This is a massive, massive. What is that? That's a carpet, isn't it? It's a massive embarrassment for Labour, isn't it?
Absolutely, but it's not unexpected, is it? I mean, people have been predicting this for many, many months now, and I would say this puts Sir Keir Starmer well and truly in the departure lounge.
Yes.
We may not get a conclusive or definitive answer today, because he's known to be an extremely stubborn man, but the cards are on the table now. And I think that he is destined, or as I say, for the departure lounge. The problem for the Labour Party is they can't really line up any kind of successor. Andy Burnham doesn't have a constituency, and there's no sign that he can get one, because all of this indicates, actually, there are very, very few, if at all, any Labour seats that they could just hand over to him, so he technically gets a seat. But I think that things are looking very, very bad, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Labour leadership get together now and decide who they can put their money behind. But the latest indications in the local elections overnight are that Angela Rayner's area has done really badly. And Reform has taken 16 of the 17 seats there. So things politically are looking bad for her. And of course, she has yet to pay her tax bill.
Well, of course, that's Thameside Council, which has gone to Reform. And I mean, I was saying this earlier to Rafe Harder-Manku, who was in. There is no longer something that can be called Labour's heartlands. I mean, obviously we're going to find out later on in Wales and Scotland how that's all going. But it looks as though Labour, at the very best of it, will probably come third in Wales. So they're certainly going to lose control of the Senedd, if you like. And also all of their sort of formerly industrial heartlands in the north and in the Midlands, even in some of the cities like Birmingham, Manchester, they're losing all of it.
Yeah, it's just a disaster area all over. In Wales, which is where I trained as a journalist, Plaid Cymru were like a tiny, tiny political party when I first started many, many years ago. And now I think it looks like they will take, certainly they will have a controlling interest in the Senedd. What is baffling to me is what the Conservatives are going to do about this.
Yeah.
Because, of course, Kenny Badenoch's appeal has certainly she's improved. Her personal poll ratings have definitely improved. But that doesn't mean the wind is behind the Conservative Party as a whole, because evidence suggests that it is not behind the Conservative Party, because actually it's been a pretty bad night for them. There are one or two bright spots. I mean, they retook Margaret Thatcher's favourite council, Wandsworth Borough, but that's not really enough. You know, one swallow doesn't make a summer, as they say, and it's still looking really bad. I think they lost right now 163 councillors. So that's a really, really bad number for the Conservatives too. The only big winner, as everyone knows for today, is Reform. Although I do see Greens climbing quite quickly in the last hour or so.
Yes, and I mean, no doubt they will do better as we follow through the day. This from Kier Starmer, just breaking. Kier Starmer says he will not resign despite the, quotes, really tough local election results. And here's what he says: it hurts and it should hurt, and I take responsibility. He keeps saying he takes responsibility, but he doesn't do anything about it, right? Tough days like this don't weaken my resolve to deliver the change that I promised. They strengthen my resolve. I mean, you know, what do you have to do to get rid of this guy?
But I think that he shows strong narcissistic tendencies.
Yes.
The main plank of that is that it's a tendency to build your part, to grandstand, to be grandiose. You notice how he's always the hero of any story. No matter how bad it is for him, he's still like the troubled challenger, you know, and I think it's that irritates people, that he casts himself in this heroic light when everyone else is suffering.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. And also, he keeps saying he takes responsibility in the same way that he keeps saying that he looks after the people that make mistakes, none of which is true, because he fires people that make mistakes and he fires people when they don't make mistakes. He fires them when he makes mistakes, and he has not ever taken responsibility for anything that's gone wrong since he got in, you know?
No,
I mean, it's just pathetic.
Another key attribute of the narcissist, and because what he does, as you've just very clearly outlined, is he doesn't take responsibility for his own mistakes. He's pushed people under the bus. As one person said to me, I'm sure it's not a novel phrase, but it must be getting quite crowded under that bus now. It must, if you could imagine it in your mind's eye, it's just rammed full of people that he's deposed.
Absolutely right. And because it has been a complete and utter unmitigated disaster, you know, ever since he got in, it's just gone horribly wrong. You know, he was only in about 24 hours before we discovered that he'd been taking a load of freebies from Lord Alley and getting, you know, free tickets to football and free tickets to Taylor Swift, and it was all kind of going horribly wrong. And then suddenly there was the riots in Southport and all the rest of it, you know, and it just he hasn't had a period of calm. He hasn't had a period of good luck. He certainly hasn't had a period where he could claim that, you know, Britain's in a good place, because it's just got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, I mean, the gifts are one thing. They're emblematic. I mean, the designer glasses are what got me. But the fact of the matter is that he did not have a clear vision from the get-go. And without a vision, you can't form a strategy, which is like a roadmap that you have to use. And without that, he is constantly kneeling at the altar of public opinion. And that's why he swings around and does U-turns. It's because he does not stand his ground on certain policies. And even when he knows he should be standing his ground, and he does make an attempt to do that with, for example, benefits, he doesn't have the backing of his backbenchers, which is critical to him, because he can't get anywhere with any legislation without it.
No, exactly. And I mean, this morning the Times has got a story saying that Ed Miliband has been leaning on him to say, you know, set a timeline for leaving. I think that's about right. I think they'll be having those conversations, won't they? To say, look, I know you don't want to leave. We know that you want to hang around and try and sort of, you know, finish the job, whatever that is, you know. But basically, your time's up, and we need to give the people some kind of sort of exit ramp. I know that's what people like to say these days, so that everybody can just move on.
I think the fact of the matter is, though, that they're talking about planning, but they know perfectly well that they do not have an able challenger candidate. And that's the hold up. I mean, you can sit in a room and you can put some fairly intelligent people in it and they can do some planning. But if you haven't got a candidate, you can't get anywhere. Now, I mean, I'm sure Ed Miliband is saying all this for a reason, or Ed Millipede, as he's known in some quarters.
Well, you know, I nicknamed him that, and now everybody else calls
you
him
did. You did.
I'm
And the
claiming
fact
it.
of the matter is that he is, you know, he wants to challenge for the leadership. But I don't know how popular he would be. I'm told inside the Labour Party that he is a popular man, but outside, I don't know what the voter thinks. Now,
I do.
the opposite is, what do they think?
They all think he's an idiot.
He's an idiot, right? Okay. And you're in a position to do some gathering of opinion on this matter, Mike.
Absolutely.
You are indeed. So I think you could say the opposite is true of Wes Streeting and Shabama Mahmood, who actually are fairly popular outside the party, but may not be so popular inside, particularly Shabama Mahmood. So you don't know how they would fare. And also Wes Streeting is slightly tarred, A, by the brush with being a protege of Peter Mandelson, and B, he's on a really small majority, I believe, in his constituency. So you can't really put someone forward as an effective leadership challenger when they're resting on a wafer-thin majority, because that could be utterly disastrous in the next general election. And really, someone could come out of the blue. I like, personally, Al Khan, the former, I think he's a former Royal Marine, military guy, now at the Ministry of Defence. People say to me, well, he doesn't really have, this is people inside the political tent, because, of course, they're self-interested. They will say, well, he doesn't really understand politics. He doesn't really have, he does understand politics, but he doesn't have enough political experience. But I would suggest that the great unwashed out there, the great British public, actually don't want someone who's a dyed-in-the-wool politician. I think they want something different.
No, I think they do, but that's why they're voting for reform, because reform are something different. I don't think anybody in the Labour government is anybody is worth a fag end. And I mean, even Al Khan's, you know, the problem for him is that, like most recently in particular, when there was a vote on the Troubles, the bill about Northern Ireland and the prosecution of various former members of the armed forces, he'd stayed away from Parliament. So he didn't even have the balls to say, I'm not voting for it. You know, he didn't have the balls to say, look, I'm going to go in and I'm going to abstain. He didn't do any of that. He just said, I'm not going to be there. And you kind of go, really? Is that the strength of your, you know, moral resolve? That's not really very impressive.
I mean, I don't want to second guess his opinion, but I'm absolutely certain that as a very able military man, which we know he is, he must be aghast at this situation.
Well, you would think so, in which case I would like to hear from him. In which case I wouldn't like him to run away and hide in the shadows, because that's not what you do. It's a bad sign. If you're supposed to be a military man, you stand up to the fight, don't you?
It's a very, very bad sign. And so he's only a marginal thought at the moment, but that may hamper his traction later on.
Yes.
Should this leadership contest last until, well, it hasn't been launched yet. My view, and it's only a view, is that it could be in the autumn. I think Sir Keir Starmer might try and limp through to the summer recess. But of course, that puts the Labour Party just ahead of the conference, and they won't want to queer their pitch over that. They won't want to have any trouble going into conference season. So, you know, maybe sooner. But I still have a strong feeling, and I was told this from inside the Labour tent, that they regard the autumn as more likely.
Yeah, I think that might end up being true. I hope it's not true, because I'd like to get rid of him literally yesterday. But great to see you. Linda, thanks very much indeed. Linda Doobly, they're giving us the benefit of her wisdom on the subject of Starmer, who has to be on the way out, doesn't he? Have we got that Greens Party video, Pooch, we can play? This is something that came into us a little bit earlier on. This is the Green Party celebrating one of their wins. I'm not quite sure which council it is, but let's check this out.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম আমি সবাইকে অনুরোধ জানাচ্ছি আমার বাংলাদেশি কমিউনিটি যারা এই নিউ হোমে বসবাস করেন সবাইকে
I didn't catch a word of that, but I'm assuming.
What on earth was that?
Do that again.
Yeah, let's do it again. Come on then.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম আমি সবাইকে অনুরোধ জানাচ্ছি আমার বাংলাদেশি কমিউনিটি যারা এই নিউ হোমে বসবাস করেন সবাইকে
Now I didn't catch a word of that, but I'm assuming.
He said he likes green bananas.
Martin Daubney there on GB News. That's bollocks, isn't it? What is going on? This is Britain, right? I'm sorry. If you're winning a seat in the council in Britain, would you mind speaking in English, please? Rather than salam alaikum, whatever it was he was saying. Something about green bananas, maybe. I don't know. There it is. You know, what's going on in Britain? How are we allowing this to happen? Surely there must be, you know, we were hearing before, were we not, from Jonathan Wong, who said he's not allowed to film inside the Count at Great Yarmouth. Well, how are these guys allowed to give a victory address in Urdu, or whatever it was they were speaking, or Hindi? By the way, that headline about have you ever eaten eel, where's that come from?
No.
Hey? I'm pretty sure that was never on the news list.
What are the eels about then?
What is that about?
I don't know.
Did you put that in?
No.
Well, how did it get there? I mean, look, I did all these headlines, right? Prime Minister urged to set leaving timeline by Miliband, right? Did that, right? The next one coming is let's go. Yeah, let's speed it up. Yeah, rapido reading, right? So, Prime Minister urged to set leaving timeline by Miliband. Next one, Home Office official exposed as a spy. This is like the news.
Yeah.
Hello, ladies and lovers. China exploited work from home. That's true. Andrew chased by man in balaclava. My favourite. McSweeney's phone thief arrested. That's another story I haven't mentioned yet. Epstein's suicide note revealed. Fine, good story. Muslims open letter on hate, which is in the Times. Get that. Rat virus is not new, apparently. It's from the cruise ship. Kim's boobs sprayed by a Kent car shop. Doesn't say what they sprayed with. Have you ever eaten eel? Where's that from? What is that? I don't know where that came from. Anyway, the answer to that question is yes, I have eaten eel. I had some smoked eel once. In fact, there was a restaurant in Glasgow, I think it was, that used to do a really nice smoked eel kind of starter. And have you ever had smoked eel?
Yeah,
it's really nice. Yeah, it's really good. And it's not at all off-putting. No. You know, you think it's some great... Yeah, you think it's some great sort of snake, sort of serpent or something. You know, it's not. It's actually rather nice, quite delicacy. But there we are. Anyway, the headline in The Sun, which is my favourite headline of the day, apart from Kim's boobs sprayed by car shop in Kent, which conjures up all sorts of images, really. How about this one? Andrew fled masked man with weapon. That's brilliant.
That is good.
Hey? Can you imagine? And I've just got this vision of a guy wearing a balaclava and Benny Hill music, waving a weapon around. And Andrew was sort of running the other way, which is unusual for him because normally he runs towards that sort of thing. Anyway, I don't know. Are we going to...
Russell and Mark.
Oh, right, OK, sorry. Russell Quirk is here and Mark Littlewood as well. I think we're going to do both of them at the same time, if you pardon the expression. Russell and... Oh, there's Mark Littlewood. Hello, Mark.
Hello, morning, Mike.
Morning to you. We'll get Russell Quirk. Oh, there's Russell. How are you, Russell?
Morning, tired, but yes, good morning.
Yes, well, you've had a bit of a week, haven't you? I mean, you were up all night probably the other night when you did the live show with us at Shepherd's Bush.
There was a big event on Wednesday night in London with a packed theatre. I don't know if you heard.
Yeah, it was. It was good. Yeah, and also packed with Reform voters as well. It would seem because they were all cheering when you came on and when Layla Cunningham came on as well.
Funny that. It
looks like
reflected last night's result.
Yeah, what can you tell us from Essex? Because I know you told me, I think, that the main count isn't coming from the county council till about 3 o'clock. But what are you seeing, if anything, yet?
Yeah, so there's a smattering of results already. So some of the district councils have declared. So in Basildon, which, if you remember, used to be the kind of Thatcher bellwether seat back in the day. So Basildon Reform have won, I think, 11 of the 14 seats that were up for election. We've won all of our all of our Clacton County Council seats.
Yeah.
But the big ones are yet to declare. So Essex County Council in full, including Brentwood, where I'm standing as a councillor, we should see the results at about about 1 or 2 o'clock this afternoon. The other big one, actually, that shouldn't be underestimated is Thurrock, which obviously is a huge local authority, matched only by the size of its debt, thanks to Conservative and Labour administrations over the last few years. That will declare mid-afternoon as well. So look, so far, as I think is reflected in the national polls, I think it's fair to say that Reform have absolutely smashed it. That wouldn't be understating it, I don't think, Mark, would it?
I don't think so, Mark. It's a bad night for everybody but Reform, isn't it?
Yes, I think that's right. I mean, I suppose the Liberal Democrats have tediously taken a couple of steps forward. The Greens are going to make advances, but it does look as if Polanski's troubles have really stymied the onward march they can make.
Yeah.
Look, what's happened, might as well be completely clear about it. The British people on Thursday have destroyed the British two-party system. It's over. It's not wounded or injured. It's finished.
Yeah.
And I think, frankly, spokespeople from both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party that I've listened to overnight, I've had about 90 minutes, Kip, have both been equally delusional. The Labour Party have been focusing, obviously, on this. Are you sort of slightly backing Starmer or leaning against him? So you've got the drama of whether we remove the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
But the Conservatives are saying we're making steady progress. I mean, this is laughable.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in one of the weirdest areas of the country, which is actually effectively a Conservative gain in the local elections, Wandsworth. But in any normal circumstances, that should be handsomely a Conservative council. They're going to have to rely on an independent in order to run it. They've taken back Westminster, no surprise there. And I think the Conservatives are deluding themselves that you can point to 1 or 2 results. I think somewhere in the Essex neck of the woods, Harlow, they seem to have quite a good council. But these are very, very patchy results. And the Conservatives are losing about half their seats. And this is midterm in a parliament in which we have the most unpopular incumbent government in history. So hats off to Reform. They have absolutely blown it away. And more or less in every part of the country, okay, you know, central London doesn't tend to be, as strong for them, or some of the more Remain leafy parts of the south. But in the rest of the places, right across England, and we're going to see in Scotland and Wales as well, Reform has broken the two-party system. That's it. It's done. It's finished. It's over.
And the other thing to note, guys, is turnout. So normally in these kind of elections, particularly these kind of mid-term elections, which they're not, but they kind of are as a kind of barometer, I suppose, of a test of the incumbent government. You normally see turnout at about 35-ish%. Most Essex wards, districts, and so on that have declared so far here have had turnout up to mid-50s. I mean, 51, 52,
wow,
53.
Really? That's big, isn't it?
So, and I think the reason for that, you'd have to say that, look, the electorate are pretty animated, and obviously that has worked to Reform's favour in terms of that disquiet, that disgust, that frustration with Labour and the Conservatives turning into more people coming out to vote, not just turning from Conservatives or Labour voters, and bearing in mind it is both, right? So we have taken almost all of the seats that we've taken in Basildon were Labour seats. I mean, some Conservative, but Labour seats. So we've taken seats from Labour and the Conservatives. But also a lot of people that told me on the doorsteps that they never normally vote, but they've had enough and they realise they've had to come out and vote. I mean, to Mark's point, to kind of make a point and to protest, but as we hear in successive elections, we heard it from the Conservatives, or rather we didn't hear it from the Conservatives in 2024 after the general election. We're hearing it now. I heard James Cleverly doing the rounds this morning on all sorts of channels. No mea culpa at all. Wouldn't even acknowledge that this was in any way a barometer or a litmus test of Conservative tenure over the last year or two. So, kind of no acknowledgement that they need to change direction or do anything. And that, isn't that testimony to everything that's wrong, not just with the Conservative and the Labour Party, but this distance in politics between the people and our politicians, particularly at national.
Yeah,
Russell,
but also, and all of that also goes to the media coverage of it. I was listening for my sins this morning to 5 Live as I came in, and Nick Robinson was doing an overnight special, and he was about to do Radio 4 breakfast, and he was talking as though he'd literally just come out of an egg. He went, "There's this party called Reform. They've done terribly well. Should we now be thinking that maybe Nigel Farage might be the next Prime Minister?" And I'm going, sorry, hello, McFly, we've been doing this for 2 years. We've been telling you this is what's happening. We've been telling you it's been coming. And now they're all going, oh, we never saw that happening.
Yeah, it's some. I mean, I actually stuck with the BBC overnight, Mike, which is not something I usually do. But logistically, they tend to have more reporters on the ground. But frankly, you're getting the results faster just by scrolling through X.
Yeah, right.
But one thing I'd say to Russell is, I don't think Reform should apologise for hoovering up the protest vote. There's a hell of a lot to protest about, right? There's a hell of a lot to be furious about, and there's a ton to protest about. And what's happening here is, in the round, okay, there'll be different issues in different places, but Reform have brilliantly basically tilted these elections to be a referendum on the government, and people do vote with national sensitivities, not just on who they think the best local candidate is to mend the potholes in their area. That might be in their mind, but it's not necessarily the driving factor. And had there been a general election today, Nigel Farage would be walking into number 10 Downing Street about now. Reform probably wouldn't have won an outright majority, but they would be by far the largest party. And what Russell's party has managed to, I think, absolutely hit the nail on the head is that the people of Britain don't just want to change a government, they want to change a system, that the entire system is utterly broken. And in July 2024, the electorate reached for the trick, one last throw at the dice. If we just change the personnel from people with blue rosettes to red rosettes, perhaps that will fix it. Well, it emphatically hasn't. Things have got worse. And frankly, the three legacy parties, the Liberal Democrats, the Conservatives and Labour, aren't arguing for system change. I mean, every Labour spokesperson's coming on television saying, oh, I think there's a need for change. Yeah, but it's not just a kind of minor little tweak. It's not a nip and a tuck. The British people
Mark, can I just add?
Surgery.
Mark, you are dead right. But the other thing that never changes, despite the fact that, yes, Downing Street's door effectively politically might go from red to blue. I was going to say yellow. It's never going to do that. Never has. But the one thing that doesn't change are the mandarins, the civil servants, the council officers, that class of the kind of hidden political elite almost with no mandate. They don't get elected. They just get put in place. If you think back to the days of Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister and the whole kind of Sir Humphrey thing, I mean, we laugh at that, but my experience of local government and my fleeting kind of flirtations with, people in national government is that is true. It's accurate. So you've got these mandarins that have their own agendas, their own political allegiances that effectively start to run the show. So, of course, when you just change the colour of the front door, what's going on behind it? And you listen to Dominic Cummings on this. So I know, some people might raise an eyebrow at that. Why listen to Dominic Cummings? But he makes a good point, which is if you don't change the people, the mechanism, the culture, the attitude of the officers, the mandarins, the civil servants behind the scenes, then nothing changes. So that actually, to me as a reformer, is the big challenge. I was asked by Liz Truss on her show this week, can you sack anyone at Essex County Council? Well, the answer is bloody yes. I don't care how. We're going to, right?
Well,
I was asked on BBC this morning the same thing. We're going to have to, otherwise the flux doesn't change.
Yeah, but of course, Dominic Cummings. But Dominic Cummings, one of the most famous, reformers of all time. Some people think he should be in reform. He was, charged with, and he charged himself with revolutionising the civil service in Whitehall, and he wasn't able to do it. And in the end, they beat him into submission, and he had to go back to his basement and write those ridiculous substacks of thousands of words, to talk about how we should be changing the civil service. Well, he had a chance and he didn't do it.
Liz Truss says exactly the same thing.
Yeah. And Russell, I think if there is a reform government after the next election, which looks measurably more likely after these results, you're right. There's going to have to be a huge change in personnel, if you like, the bureaucratic level, not just the political level. But you're also going to have to change the law. Right? Because the problem that politicians of all stripes who are trying to do anything run into is Sir Humphrey Appleby coming up to them and saying, sorry, Minister, you can't do that. It's illegal. It's a breach of this directive. It's a breach of that directive. The Equality Commission will be onto us. And the same, by the way, goes through the judiciary, who we've now basically politicised by giving judges way too much discretion to determine things like immigration cases. They need to interpret the law narrowly, not widely. And if you just change the bureaucrats, get rid of Sir Humphrey Appleby and replace them with, Sir Tufton Buffton because you think that person's a bit more sympathetic, you won't make headway. There's got to be a complete change in the law with regard to the civil service, with regard to equalities law, discrimination law, human rights law. I mean, it is an absolutely monumental task, and you probably need to carry out in your first 100 days in office, because otherwise nothing will get done again, despite the good intentions of an incoming government.
No, I mean, it's like walking into a classroom as a new teacher, isn't it? And if they're all unruly little shits, if you'll pardon the expression, if you don't deal with them on day one, you're going to have problems for the rest of the time. So you've got to get in and just do it.
It's worse than that, Mike. It's like walking in as the new teacher and being told you have no powers to put any of the kids in detention. You have no powers to retain them at lunch break. You have no powers to make them do their homework. You have no powers to tell them to shut up if they're being rowdy because the law is against it. You've got to change all of those things. That is going to be a big, big task. Because Britain, I mean, clearly what the British electorate is screaming out for, and those within the Western Parliament, a total reset.
But part of that, guys, is having the boldness and the experience of life to be able to do that. So I accept that there needs to be legislative change, but you also need people that don't come out of university with a mind that is focused on having a career in politics. So they get indoctrinated by wandering around Portcullis House, carrying a bag for Sir Tarquin, whoever. They're completely indoctrinated from a cultural perspective. I think the beauty, and I know I would say this of reform, is that there are many, many people within it, particularly at local level, that don't have political experience, so know no better, but they do have private sector business ownership experience. And I've talked to some of these people, they literally shrug their shoulders and just say, you got to just start firing people, right? If they're no good, they're inefficient, there's too many of them, we're going to start firing people. So I think that is part of the culture change, that we're not anymore as part of this revolution that we're seeing today, as part of this kind of sea change from the uni party to a kind of a different type of politics. We're going to have people involved that actually start to think about things from not just a commonsensical point of view, but actually a private sector perspective to make stuff happen that needs to happen. Yes.
Yeah. Russell, I think that it would be a welcome breath of fresh air in the corridors of power. And I definitely think Reform are onto something there. And I listened to Zia Youssef saying that he'd anticipate about half of the Reform cabinet would be people from outside of politics. Nevertheless, you're going to have to get the balance right here, because you're going to have to play the system and the game as it's presently constructed. You're going to need to know what a humble address is and how you might defeat it in Parliament, and what rules are going to be given to MPs about early day motions and whether they can sign them or mustn't sign them, or can sign some and not others. So there's quite a history of businessmen. Do you remember, what was his name? Archie Norman, who was the Conservative Party chair back in the day. Fantastic career at Asda, obviously a brilliant businessman, but couldn't translate that into the game of politics. So mixed in with the breath of fresh air, the discipline, the kind of private sector spirit and entrepreneurial spirit, I hope, you're definitely going to need to have people who know the way the system works.
That's why we took 20 or so defectors from the Conservative Party that are...
I think Danny Kruger's probably got the biggest job in politics at the moment, even bigger than Nigel Farage.
He's got the experience in Westminster to carry it out. That balance.
Yeah, he's got to prepare the playbook for exactly what a Reform government would do.
Well, let's face it, Mark. He's following a bloke who just said this, right? It hurts and it should hurt, and I take responsibility. Tough days like this don't weaken my resolve to deliver the change that I promised. They strengthen my resolve. Right?
So this is a Kier Starmer statement.
That's Kier Starmer's statement this morning.
So he's going to double down on stupid. He's going to double down on inefficiency, double down on being completely distant from the electorate. Wow. Talk about a political cockroach, talk about Teflon. Maybe he'll be persuaded over the next 2 or 3 days that his career lies elsewhere, based on the fact that I'm sure Wes Streeting and Angela Rayner are now sharpening their knives as we speak.
Yes.
Mike,
talking of Angela Rayner, we were mentioning this earlier. Angela Rayner's own constituency, Tameside, up in Manchester, that's gone to Reform, right? There are any longer Labour heartlands in the north of England. And I heard the phrase for the first time today being said by it was Lord Charlie Faulkner, I think. The problem the Labour government have got and the Labour Party have got is that the only people that now vote for them are the sort of graduate class of wokists who live in London and work for media companies, and that's
the public sector, train drivers, nurses, and doctors.
Yeah.
It's a very narrow clientele now. But Mike,
by the way, just before I let you go on, I've just put a video of Starmer speaking this morning, I'll just put it in the group if you can see if we can have a look at that if we can. Anyway, sorry, Mark, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, unusually, Mike, I'm going to actually stand up for the Green Party. Just before Russell and I came on air, you showed that clip of some Green Party celebration in some foreign language. Well, let's be fair about it. It was actually more coherent than what's come out of Kier Starmer's lips this morning, which is just absolutely ludicrous word salad. Look, if the Labour Party have got to, if they want to get rid of him, they've got to move and get rid of him now.
Yeah.
Right? There is not going to be another window like this where his party has been smashed into smithereens, making no gains of any.
But Mark, they're as worried about what comes next as the rest of the country are. That's the problem for the Labour.
Sure. And what comes next might be worse. But I would have thought if the Labour Party MPs have two brain cells to rub together, they would think, you've got to gamble from this point of view because they know what will happen if they stick with Starmer. I agree. We don't know what will happen if you get rid of him.
Yeah, but the thing is, it doesn't.
That's oblivion guaranteed.
But you don't need a telescope or a fortune teller to say that you know what's going to happen next. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. We saw the gilt yields up over 5% the other day. Much higher than they were under Liz Truss. That's not going to get any better. The oil price is not going to come down anytime soon. The border problem isn't going to get any easier. They're going to have more and more illegals coming over. We're going to lose all sorts of credibility on the international stage because Starmer's incapable of making any sort of decision worth a fag end. So, as you say, we might as well get rid of him now. But, he's actually saying this morning, and we'll get the clip in a minute, he doesn't want to walk away and plunge the country into chaos. Well, where does he think it is now? For heaven's sake.
He wants to stay at his desk and plunge the country into chaos. I want to stay and plunge the country into chaos.
No, exactly.
He wants a different type. He doesn't want a different type of chaos. That's what he doesn't want.
Yeah. Right. It's just ridiculous. And it's kind of summed up for me by the way that he's pictured on the front pages this morning and inside, walking to the polling station, holding his wife's hand. Everybody knows that's a crock of crap, right? Because he's only managed to persuade her to do that one day only. Do you mind coming back and holding my hand like a 14-year-old teenager and making it look like we're really, really happy together because that will somehow get people out to vote? Well, that didn't work either.
No, there can't be any case for sticking with him. And one of the things, you usually, when you're a political nerd like me and stay up all night watching people from different parties giving their take on it, you know what to expect. But there was one thing that did really quite surprise me last night. And that was representatives from opposing political parties, not from Labour, Chris Philp from the Conservatives, Tim Montgomery from Reform, saying that on the doorstep, Starmer is not just disliked, his unpopularity doesn't just come up on the doorstep, he is positively loathed. Yeah. And actually, Tim Montgomery went far enough to say that to an extent that Tim Montgomery actually found it quite uncomfortable, that people were absolutely spitting teeth about the Prime Minister. This wasn't just a bit of ennui or being a bit tired of him or rolling your eyes. Yeah. It's blind fury. It would be crazy for the Labour Party to stick with him, but as so many people have pointed out, God only knows where it goes next or who they would even pick. Yeah. It's not exactly a field glittering with merit, is it?
It's not. And also, I suppose there is that aspect where people might not want the job because, if you're Wes Streeting or you're Ed Miliband or even if you're Angela Rayner, you've got to look at that and go, if I take this job, it's all going to end in tears. It's going to be awful for me. It's going to be terrible for my career. And maybe it's better if I don't actually do it.
Yeah, but saying that though, Mike, they quite like the book deals, the newspaper columns, and the gold-plated final salary pension for the rest of their lives, wouldn't they?
Yeah, yeah. Well, they've already got all that though. Old Angela Rayner has got a book coming out very soon, in which she'll be waxing lyrical, no doubt, about how to pay your taxes the easy way by Angela Rayner. But the thing is, it's all gone basically tits up for Labour. I don't think I've seen a more unpopular Prime Minister. I, who don't normally get particularly worked up by these things, I just hate him. I see him now, and I don't know if we've got the clip yet. There's the punching clip, but the clip from today is typically as bad as any other clip you've ever seen. And he seems to be impervious to criticism. He seems to be impervious to the fact that everybody hates him. He can't go anywhere. He was physically told not to campaign because people hate him that much. Every time he gets out of a car, he gets booed. It's ridiculous.
I would have thought the issue for the Labour Party now is not so much what's the pathway by which we could win the next election. That's gone. The chances of Labour winning the next election are as near as zero as makes no difference. The genuine question for them is, are they going to exist in any meaningful fashion after the next election? Because if some of these results are repeated, anything like, I mean, there were some seats where there was a more than 50% swing from Labour to Reform. This is almost mathematically impossible in terms of the scale of the swing. I mean, absolutely unheard of. Their heartlands are toast. So I actually think no Labour spokesperson will admit this, no Labour strategist will admit this. But the real challenge for them is, can they find someone who could lead them to winning maybe 150, conceivably 200 seats? I mean, an earth-shattering defeat, but one that would probably just about keep them viable as a political party. Because if they carry on down this road, they're not just going to be kicked out of office. They are going to be reduced to rubble. You could have probably just a few dozen Labour MPs left sitting where the Scottish Nationalists and the Liberal Democrats sit now. They are facing absolute extermination if they don't turn this around. And at the moment, they don't appear to have much of a clue about how to do so, right?
No.
I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into chaos. We were elected to deal with these challenges, and that's what we will do.
Has Ed Miliband asked you to set out a timetable for your departure?
Well, I think Ed Miliband has dealt with this and made absolutely clear that he supports me.
What do you say to those in your party that are really upset with you? They don't think you're getting it and they're calling for your resignation. What do you say to would-be challengers and the party? What's your message?
Well, I think it's very important that we don't sugarcoat these results, so I'm not going to do that. They are tough results, I accept that. They reflect voters who don't feel that their lives have changed enough or quickly enough, and that's been going on for a long time. We were elected to deal with that, and I'm not going to walk away from that responsibility and plunge the country into chaos.
I mean, it's a joke, isn't it? I mean, this guy's just
Did you hear what you said there, though? That, you know, we're here to kind of rise to and solve these challenges. He seems to be governing by way of some out-of-body experience, because he's looking down on himself as if he doesn't realise that those very challenges have been caused specifically
by him.
By him.
Yes, exactly right. And I mean, the other thing that I think he's going to find out about in the next 24 hours, and we all are, is what you said to me the other night, Russell, which is that an awful lot of people who were asked before who they were going to vote for maybe didn't tell the absolute truth because they didn't want to say they were going to vote Reform. And it now looks like an awful lot more people are going to vote Reform than we thought.
Well, I'll tell you what the dynamic is on the doorstep. When you go and knock on the same door over 3 or 4 weeks, 2 or 3 times, often you would get a very, very different political intention from the man of the house versus the woman of the house. And the man of the house, I knocked on a particular door yesterday, and he was whispering that he had been out to vote for us because he didn't want his wife to hear. So there's this really odd gender thing going on. But yes, there is absolutely, I mean, apart from the surge in Reform popularity in the polls and now the real poll, which is local elections, as we're seeing kind of laying out in front of us here, but there's this hidden fabric of Reform support as well. And look, but the other thing that we shouldn't gloss over, and sorry to do this, Mark, but you know, we're talking about the catastrophe that is the Labour performance. I'm not sure the Conservatives, in terms of the amount of seats being lost, and I think there's only about a third of councils have declared. There's still about 90 councils to declare results. It's not quite neck and neck. Obviously, the Conservatives haven't lost as many, but they're not that far behind in terms of the amount of Conservative councillors that have lost their seats over the last 24 hours.
I agree with you. I think the Conservatives are being absolutely delusional and have been for the last 2 years about the plight that they're in. I mean, you can say that Kemi's performed quite well, but it hasn't translated into any votes whatsoever. So
you and I have discussed this before. I think Kemi's read papers from her lectern quite well at PMQs. I think that's what she's done. And she's copied a few Reform policies quite well, like getting out the ECHR, which it took her and her party and her government 14 years to decide to do. But surely there's a question mark over Kemi's future as well, if she's overseen what is, you know, if we take Labour aside, if Labour hadn't performed this badly, the focus today would be entirely on the poor performance of the Conservatives, and therefore maybe she should go.
Yeah,
it's interesting, but there's no obvious successor, and weirdly, in my view, but nevertheless obviously, the Conservatives seem to be taking a very sort of phlegmatic and relaxed approach to staring Armageddon in the face.
You would think arrogant is what
and
it
also,
is.
and also this whole business of, you know, This whole business of all doesn't seem to be able to take over. It's like the worst excuse ever not to get rid of someone. You know, Kier Starmer's completely useless. Let's keep him on because everybody else is even worse. You know, it's not a defence, I'm afraid, is it?
No, that's true. Also, going back to that Starmer clip, Mike, here's the other thing that, now I appreciate that Labour after this, in the midst of this unfolding apocalypse, are going to be issuing lots of sort of statements of word salad. We've listened, we want to bring about change. But here's the big thing that they've got wrong. And I've heard not just the Prime Minister there, but a lot of Labour ministers and spokespeople saying, well, I think the lesson here is we've got to go further and faster.
Yeah.
Well, hang on.
Yeah.
I think the message to the electorate is you're going in the wrong direction, right? The last thing they want you to do is to put your foot to the floor.
Yeah.
They want you to slam the brakes on and put virtually everything into reverse.
Yeah, well, that's you driving the country off a cliff, aren't they?
Yeah. How long before
electrons don't drive off the edge of the cliff faster, are they?
How long before we hear from Rory Stewart and Gavin Barwell and Amber Rudd that the Conservative Party needs to move even further to the left to stop this sort of thing happening again?
Exactly right. I know. Bloody ridiculous. Anyway, great guys. Fantastic to talk to you both. Brilliant analysis. And it's going to be a fascinating weekend and a fascinating week next week as it all kind of starts to unfold and it all starts to unravel for Starmer. I can't wait. Personally, I woke up this morning with a big smile on my face and I haven't stopped laughing ever since. But there we are. So hopefully, Russell, you'll be able to congratulate yourself later as well. So keep an eye out for that. And we'll talk to you both soon. Thank you very much indeed. Mark Littlewood, Russell Quirk there, giving us their version of events, which are absolutely horrendous for Labour and pretty much the same for the Tories, actually. And the other interesting sort of narrative, I would say, that we're getting over the course of the last few hours is that the Greens are not doing that well. The Greens are actually doing a lot worse than everybody thought they would, partly because Zach Polanski is such a plank, right? 397 is the number we've got so far for reform. That's a win total of 395 seats. The Conservatives have lost 170 seats. Labour have lost 257 seats. I mean, as you heard from Russell there's still many, many more counts to be done. Lib Dems up 35. The Greens up 27, which is not much really, to be fair. And so we'll keep an eye on all of it and we'll keep giving you the updates from now until around about 10 o'clock. Coming up, though, we've got Kane Blackwell here. He's from CPAC UK, which is a big event coming up in July, which I'm going to be taking part in as well. And also, of course, we'll be talking to the Bishop, our favourite Bishop, Bishop Keir, with a Sunday sermon. He'll be telling us what he's been doing over in Wales this week as well. Should we do a bit of news here or is it too early? No, bit of news? OK, let's get Fiona.
Good morning, I'm Fiona MacLeod. Labour's getting absolutely mullered in the local elections. Starmer's lot haemorrhaging seats left, right and centre, while Reform UK storms in, like the guest who actually showed up to the party. Council's flipping like pancakes, and Keir's reset looks more like a factory reset with all the progress wiped. Meanwhile, the nation's dusting off the bunting for the 80th 5E Day anniversary, because nothing says we won the war quite like commemorating it while wondering if we can win a council seat in Hartlepool. God save the king and free the sausages. I mean hostages. Elsewhere, more synagogue arson probes. Talking of arson, we will be covering the firebombing case today. Also, a hantavirus cruise ship nightmare forcing Brits into isolation. Same old Britain, endlessly resilient, occasionally on fire, always sarcastic about it. Cheerio, tune in later for more exciting ways the country can disappoint everyone equally. Please, remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
Fiona MacLeod there with the news. Thank you very much indeed for keeping us updated. Now, coming up later on in the show, we're going to be switching over to UK Live, which is what we do every day. And we're going to speak to Bishop Keir over in Wales and get his view and his take on the week, and we'll get a little Sunday sermon from him as well. But right now, though, we're going to stay with this broadcast, the Mike Graham Show. Kane Blackwell is here, and because he's organising an event, or helping to organise an event coming up in July called CPAC UK, and we're going to find out what that's all about. Kane, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Welcome back to the Mike Graham Show. Tell us about CPAC UK. A lot of people will know the name CPAC and they'll think of it as a kind of American import, I suppose, right? Because it's a sort of it's a political movement, for want of a better word, I suppose, which has always been of the right, for the right. So tell us about the English version, or the UK version.
So CPAC is not just an American brand, it's also an international brand. You've got CPACs in Hungary, in South Korea, in Japan, all over the world. And now we're going to have the first one in Great Britain, in the UK, between the 16th and the 18th of July. It's going to be a fantastic event. We're going to have lots of different speakers, including yourself, Mike.
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
It's going to be great. And, you know, we've got people from all different walks of the sort of political spectrum in terms of the right.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the free speech campaigners. So we've now announced Lucy Connolly is going to be speaking, Lord Young of the Free Speech Union, and we've actually teamed up with the Free Speech Union as well to offer American and international guests protection when they come over here, because we've had a lot of them who say, we're quite worried about our free speech being violated.
Really? What, the Americans say that?
Yeah. A lot of them are worried about that. So we've teamed up with them to give people that protection when they are over here, which is really, really great. So, but it's going to be a fantastic event and lots of fantastic, interesting speakers.
I mean, people have said to me that the birth of CPAC, if you like, in America was responsible for the sort of the Tea Party movement, which then kind of led to the MAGA movement and Donald Trump getting elected and all of that. Do you see CPAC in the UK becoming that kind of force, if you like, you know, like a sort of not just a talking shop, but a kind of an engine room, if you like, for
100%.
for the creation of something?
Well, I think so, and I think it needs to be done, because for far too long the right has been disorganised. It hasn't had a central voice, and it hasn't had a movement behind it. It's just been political parties toing and froing. And what we actually need is a movement behind the parties to actually push the parties in the right direction, and to bring up new talent, and to actually have the battle of ideas in an environment where we can all actually get together, but we're all still of the same belief in, you know, freedom, in Western values, and in liberty.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because I mean, we've seen from the results so far that are coming in overnight on the local election front, you know, Britain is not a left-wing country. No,
right? Not at all.
Despite what we get told by the BBC, despite what we get told by Parliament, and the sort of, you know, the cognoscenti, as I like to call them, you know, who always talk about how, you know, we're a very welcoming country to immigrants. We're, you know, we're very sort of, you know, culturally superior to everybody else. We're very left-wing. We like, you know, the National Health Service. It's the greatest thing ever. And, you know, we love the public sector, and let's all clap for the nurses. You know, it's all crap, because at the end of the day, the one thing that people care about in this country is security, you know, the ability to make enough money to keep their families safe, to be able to take a holiday, to be able to get a car, to be able to afford to buy a house, you know, all the things that ordinary people worry about and care about. And we're seeing that in the voting patterns overnight for reform, because they see reform as the answer.
100%. And, you know, I'm personally, I'm a member of Reform, I'm a supporter of Reform, and I'm very pleased about the results overnight. But I think it does show that this country is a right-wing country. Yeah. It's a country
that might even be centre-right, but it's certainly not left-wing.
No, not at all. And I think the thing is, what people sort of fail to sort of grasp is that actually what people want are very simple. They want more of the money that they earn. They, like you say, want to be able to take the family on holiday. They don't want to worry about their bank balance the entire time. It's what I would call the British dream. It's actually something, you know, it's looking at your children and being able to say, one day this will all be yours.
Yes.
You know, that's
whereas at the moment, what you're saying is, one day this might be yours, but you might have to give 40% of it to the government. You know, so you might shave that bit off. And I mean, I myself am going through that at the moment, because, you know, I'm not, I mean, suggesting that I'm towards the end of my life, but, you know, I'm closer to it than I was at the beginning. And so many people like me are worried that, you know, how much is the government going to take away from what I want to give my children, and why the hell should they? Why can't I, you know, spend my life making money and acquiring things, houses, cars, whatever, and I should be able to gift those to my family? How dare they come along and say you can't do that, or we're going to nick half of it?
Well, I think people my age as well feel exactly the same way, that you're punished for succeeding. You're punished if you actually want to get on in life and do well. And that's the huge problem with this country, and that's why productivity is so low, because people don't feel the need to work, because at the end of the day, work isn't paying. So we need to get back to that mentality that actually, if you go to work, you're going to keep more of the money you earn, and actually you can be as successful as you want to be.
Right. And so, are you having people come over from the US that we would know? I mean, is there anyone you can mention?
So I mean, obviously, we're speaking to lots of different people, but we've had most recently announced Rick Grinnell, who is the President's Special Envoy. He's going to come over and speak at CPAC. We've got lots of different people. We're speaking to them. Obviously, I can't announce them all here today. But There are lots of different people who we're speaking to, not just from America, but from Europe as well, because this fight isn't just about the UK, it's about the entire Western world. Because at the moment, we're going through a crazy period where, thank God that Trump was elected in America, because that was the first domino to fall.
Yeah.
And if that hadn't happened, we'd be in a really difficult situation.
Oh, I think if Trump wasn't in the White House, can you imagine how bad it would have been if Kamala Harris was there and what would have happened?
Would have been terrible.
It would have been dreadful,
terrible,
wouldn't it? Because we do, we are, whether we like it or not, we are sort of relentlessly guided and attached to the United States of America. Yeah. The idea that Starmer and his crowd think that, it's a better idea to be, more friendly to the Europeans and the European Union is ridiculous.
Yeah, it frustrates me so much when sort of these people say, oh, we can't be close to America, we shouldn't be close to America. We are tied into America because we are tied into with defence.
Yeah.
If we want to set off a nuclear weapon, we have to ask America first, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And if we want to be self-sufficient and independent from America, then we're going to have to drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
Really, really quickly.
And we're going to have to build a few warships as well, because we don't seem to have any.
And we're going to have to actually open our steel industry, and we're going to have to actually make stuff again.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the biggest problems that we have.
Yeah, absolutely right. And we're going to also have to start, as you say, drilling in the North Sea and making ourselves, properly self-sufficient. Because the worst thing that we can do, I think, is to realign ourselves with the European Union, which apparently is what Starmer wants to do. Which is another reason to chase him out of office faster than you can say, Jack Robinson. Because at the end of the day, the Europeans will just continue to punish us. It's what they like to do.
100%.
Ask us for £1 billion and give us nothing in return.
Exactly.
That's simply so that we can pay for other countries which are apparently worse off than we are. Well, I don't think there is another country worse off than we are. We should be getting money from them because we're in such bad shape,
I mean, we could be going with our begging bowl to the IMF and they might say we haven't got any money for you guys.
Exactly.
And that's the problem. But I think this is exactly what CPAC is going to be all about. It's about bringing people together. It's about talking about the ideas that face our civilization, because at the end of the day, this is a fight. We are in a war at the moment for our civilization, for the Western world, for our values. Yeah. And if we actually don't get there, and if we don't actually drive this forward, we're losing. Yeah. We're going to lose. And I think that's really, really sad. And I just really hope that lots of people actually come to CPAC and understand that this is about the Conservative movement as a whole. Not one party, not however many parties. This is about the entire movement. This is about saying, we're here, and we want this country to be proud. We want this country to be the greatest country on earth, because it can be, it has been before, and it will be again.
Yeah. And if people want to come along and get tickets, how do they do that?
Well, if you are a listener of the Mike Graham Show, you can have your own special discount. So there's £75, and that is cpac.org/Great Britain, /register/Mike Graham. Okay. But you can also go to our website, which is www.cpac.org/international/Great Britain.
Great, brilliant. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be good fun.
It's going to be great.
Going to be down near the O2 in Greenwich.
Yes.
If you haven't been down there before, which is very good. Great to see you, Kane. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Kane Blackwell there, representing CPAC UK. It's going to be a big event. It's going to be a must-have if you can get yourself to London for a couple of days or even just for one day. Very much worth doing. Now, we're about to flip ourselves over, I think, to UK Live so that we can talk to the Bish, our favourite bishop, who, of course, Bishop Kai Dewar. We'll also have a bit of Pooch's Pooch as well. Shall we do that now? Yeah, can we do it? Let's do it. Let's flick the switch. And this will be our new channel, of course, where there's going to be lots and lots of other delights for you to enjoy in terms of other shows that you can watch when we're not on.